for us out of her busy schedule. She's working on a lot of projects. Some have been sworn to secrecy, so mum's the word, but I'm excited when they come to fruition. It's going to rewrite the history books. Okay, so last time on the program, we talked about a very mysterious pistol, and I hope you got a chance to watch that show. It's up in the archive. Tonight, we're going to do a deep dive into history and take you over to the great country of Argentina. Again, we're here with British investigative journalist, a longtime resident in South America. You've got to literally go and get boots on the ground, Lawrence, to get the real story. And so you've been in South America for a very long time. ¿Tú hablo español?
Sí, pero ho un accento no muy lindo, que parece un italiano o una portugués. But there you go. What can I say?
Yo también. Mi accento es horrible.
Oh, really? Yeah, my accent is awful. Mine is well.
The good news is I can be a fly on the wall, and I'll play dumb, but I might get some of it right. It's amazing. I haven't spoke Spanish in like 12 years since I was in Costa Rica. I'm surprised I retained any of it.
Yeah, nice. All right.
I don't know if I told you, I lived in Panama for 2 years. I lived in Colombia off and on. Costa Rica, off and on for 3 years. I was in Tijuana, Mexico for one.
That sounds a bit dodgy, Shannon.
And then I was in Cartagena, Colombia for 4 months. I think I met some dodgy characters along the way, for sure.
Well, you will have in Cartagena, absolutely. That's.
Did I tell you the story of Colombia? I went there thinking I was going to be able to stay, and didn't want to go further into the interior than Cartagena because at that time in 2004, the FARC were still very active, right? And so you know how they were kidnapping people, and they would have seen me, the white-skinned gringo, and kidnapped me and held me up in the Monte for,
What year was that, did you say?
So the FARC were so bad back then, they would kidnap you, right, and take you up to the mountains and hold you for ransom.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They would contact my family, and they would say, hey, send $10,000 for Shannon, or we're going to cut off an ear. So thank God I didn't go any further than Cartagena, which was guarded with a naval base. You follow me? So
Yep.
That's like the number one tourist spot in Colombia. There's really only two nice places to go for beaches, and that's Cartagena or San Andreas, I'm told. So I figured
I've only been there for work as well. Yeah, so I haven't had any leisure time there. Yeah, exactly.
I figured if I was going to survive it, then I needed to go where all the tourists stayed, and they had a naval base that would guard you. So it was crazy, Lawrence. About every block there would be a naval military service member with a machine gun.
Of course.
And it was a little bit unnerving, but after a while I got used to it, and I said, hey, well, at least I got some bodyguard protection down here.
But you don't know whose side they're actually on. Because, I was down there in the 90s when I did the Cocaine Triangle. And we did a 3-part series, and it was about. So we had to work with both sides. We were in first with the carteles, with the cartels, seeing them moving around and infiltrating with them and showing their side of the story. And then we went in with the army, blowing up the airstrips. But the scary thing was that you go in and you get dropped at a certain point, then you go upriver in canoes and stuff, and you've got to go down and deep. And if anything happens, ciao, nobody's going to hear from you ever again. And you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know what's worse, the snakes or actually, I think the army guys were pretty scary, to be honest.
Oh, my goodness. So you encountered both narco-traficantes?
We did a series. It was called Cocaine Triangle. You might find it somewhere online. So that's what we did. We went in there because we were also doing indigenous tribes for Discovery Channel, going in uncontacted tribes, and we did a 2-part. It was a 6-episode series that we did, which I'm proud to say won awards, as did the Cocaine Triangle. And so, of course, with finances and everything, what you do, you'd moonlight, and you'd use that time there to do other programs as well. So that's what we did. But yeah, that was pretty tough going in the jungle, I have to say. I'm not very fond of the jungle. I prefer the
Lawrence,
desert.
were you
But anyway,
there? Were you there during the time of Pablo Escobar, or had he already been captured and killed?
I can't remember. 95, 96, 97. Do you know? I don't remember, but the carteles. I mean, I've got. We filmed it. I mean, I'm talking like bin loads of cocaine, just bin
Wow.
loads of it. Um, but do you know what I found more fascinating? Because that's why I wanted to go and get my PPL, which I never concluded, and I started here in Argentina, because we were always dependent on these small guys, mainly Americans or Australians, these little pilots, and we'd go up in Cessnas or Pipers and stuff to get taken further in. But what I noticed were there were loads of tiny little small planes just abandoned in the middle of the jungle because they'd build these airstrips, to land, pick up the stuff, whether they're picking it up or dropping it off. And half the time they'd just leave these planes just completely abandoned. The carteles would just leave these planes. And I said, oh, we should go and do a salvage of all these lovely little aircraft, So,
Oh, that's
so
true. I mean,
yeah,
that
yeah,
was
yeah,
nothing for them to
yeah,
abandon a $1 million
yeah,
boat or plane.
yeah, that's
That's
right.
pocket change.
Yeah,
Amazing.
no, it's amazing, isn't it?
Folks, I'm
There you go.
excited to be here with Lawrence DeMello. She's got so much to talk about, and I'm going to make some notes because we're going to bring her back and do some deep dives and some of those other things too. All this stuff interests me. In fact, let's make an announcement. A podcast from none other than Lawrence DeMello is in the works, and when you get that up and running, I got a guy you have to bring on your show named Roger Reeves. He's a Georgia boy like me, born in Georgia, but
Ooh,
he was a prolific um, drug smuggler, and he probably at one time had the largest contract with anyone, Pablo Escobar. He was a personal pilot for Pablo,
oh wow.
and probably flew more missions than anyone. Of course, along the way, he was shot down in the jungles of Mexico, tortured with hot chili peppers up his rear rectum. He escaped
Yeah,
that. he
yeah.
escaped. He escaped a number of jails, and he went on to recruit a guy none other than the late Barry Seal, who was involved in the Mena,
Wow. Yeah,
Arkansas Clinton
yeah,
scandals, and
yeah.
who was ultimately assassinated in Miami by the very cartel that he smuggled drugs for.
That was
And
a
Roger
dirty story.
Reeves,
The art stuff. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
he is ultimately captured trying to bring in the largest shipment of cocaine into Australia by boat. And he spent 30 years in prison. Horrible
Wow.
price he had to pay. He got out a few
Wow.
years ago, and I got the first interview with him. And they still have him on what's the conditions of release? They put you on probation. So his
On
probation
bail.
is he has
You're
to
on
call
bail.
in.
You're on bail. Yeah.
Yeah. He has to call in like every day until he's 100 years old. He's already like 86 now, so poor guy. But uh,
He's not
what
under
a
house
story he
arrest,
has.
is he? He's under
No, no,
probation.
ma'am. He was released, but contingent upon him checking in, unless they lift it at some point. I hope they do for the guy. But he's been on a number of the shows out there, and he's got the greatest story ever told about being the pilot for Pablo. Now, there were other pilots too, but this guy, he's got so many stories, amazing, and you'll be able to
Amazing.
get some secrets out
Amazing.
of him. So I'm hoping you can
Yeah.
get him on
Oh,
your
I'd
program.
love to.
Okay. So, folks, we're excited to have Lawrence back tonight. We're going to be going to the nation of Argentina. Just in case you don't know your geography, I put a quick map up there online. That's South America. And, of course, Argentina is central to the story tonight. We're going to be talking about an amazing discovery off the coast of Argentina. So, Lawrence, welcome back, and I'm going to give you the mic.
Thank you
Where
very
shall we go?
much. Well, this is the thing. When people talk about submarines and people say, oh, it's so boring, but it's very important, because what that is really, it's a smoking gun as to what was going on in Europe towards, actually not even just towards the end of the war. Even I found documents to prove since 1943. So we already know about the stories about high-ranking Nazis that came to Argentina through various things, through Odessa. A lot of them came with being issued false documents, and they came with the support of the Vatican and the Red Cross. A lot of them came on ships, like Mengele came on a ship and Eichmann came on a ship. But there are also stories about, let's not even go into Hitler, because as I said to you before, I really don't know if he did, although I do not believe he committed suicide in the bunker. But I think there's a lot more evidence to say that he did escape and he did come to Argentina. And in fact, there's a really good FBI document that I've got. I should have sent it to you, where even in early 1944, there were internal communications in between American and British intelligence talking about Argentina being a possible sanctuary, that they'd heard rumors that Hitler was planning to escape there. So, this is not something that was invented after the war. They were already talking about it then. So they must have had very good cause to talk about the idea that Hitler was already plotting, and his henchmen, to do a bunk and go somewhere far away and create what in their minds was going to be the Fourth Reich, and continue on their dream was of building this enormous empire. So where were they going? They were going to primarily to the southern part. Argentina's enormous, and the south of Argentina, I think I mentioned this when we were talking about the Luger and the bodyguard of high-ranking Nazis on the last show. If you go down to the south of Patagonia, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's like Bavaria 200 years ago. I mean, just absolute perfect lakes and mountains and trees and forests. I mean, it's like what you imagine. Remember, years and years ago, I'm older than you, Shannon, but we used to get like boxes of chocolates, and on the front there'd be like this gorgeous idyllic, like Heidi type image of Switzerland and everything. Anyway, that's what it looks like, and it's still very much like that today. So I dug out some intelligence documents that said that the British naval intelligence knew that the Germans were already bringing, they were shuttling backwards and forwards, commuting U-boats down here. Remember that Argentina was supposedly neutral. We're talking the Second World War, obviously. And all the action was happening in Europe until, of course, what happened when we had Pearl Harbor and Japan got involved. But South America was basically off bat. Who would come down here? What was the point of coming down here? And we need to question, why would German U-boats be utilizing? It's a long way, as you know, Shannon. I don't know how many thousand miles it is. I think it's I know from London, if you do, as the crow flies, to get down here is about 8,000 kilometers. So if you think going to Patagonia, it's further than that. So we're probably about 10 or 11. So what were they doing in the submarines coming down here? So what could they possibly be doing? Now, there is a map. I'm afraid you haven't got it because I had some technical problems and I sent it to you. And it's a Kriegsmarine map. You might be able to find it in WhatsApp. It's probably tricky now to load it. But it's a Kriegsmarine map of 1942. And on that map, you can see that part of the coastline, which actually we investigated for submarines. And there's actually marked out on there, which is like a holding place of German U-boats, Kriegsmarine U-boats. And that is a map, and they're marked on there. So they wouldn't be marking a part of the coastline of Argentina saying this is where we're going to, put our submarines while we're coming down here and offload and then go back. So what were they bringing down here? That's all the big question. And a lot of people say, apart from, they say maybe high-ranking Nazis. Personally, it was much too risky to be bringing people down on submarines. They would have come on aircraft, or they would have come on commercial ships, like they blend in. And if anything they were bringing down here, it's very, very possible it was heavy duty stuff, technology, crates of gold. Now, there's a naval intelligence document that I have, which I managed to get, fortunately, and it was an interrogation of a German Argentine spy that had been captured in Spain and handed over to British intelligence. And he was held in the United Kingdom in 1943, and they interrogated him. And in fact, the map, one of the maps I've also sent you, they asked him to what was going on with Argentina, and he admitted that there were submarines coming down from here. Now that document is dated 1943, so we can be absolutely sure from 1943 U-boats were definitely coming down from Europe down to Argentina, back and forth. And he actually explains that within there were treasures. He doesn't talk about gold. He says treasures, documents, heavy items, valuables, and they were being dropped off at various points along the Argentine coastline. One of these points is where I went with Abel Basti and we did the 2024 second recce to go out there and document the wreck and confirm that it was in fact a scuttled U-boat, and that's what we did. So we know they're down here. Unfortunately, you have patrons come on and they say we're going to float it. There's nothing to float. These have been scuttled, and that means that they've been deliberately exploded by the people that had them, just like the Graf Spee was, which was in the Battle of the River Plate in 1939, the beautiful pocket battleship, Graf Spee, German Kriegsmarine ship. So what they would have done, they would have put explosive in, they've got everybody off, got everything they needed off, utilize it, and then get rid of it, get rid of the evidence. So what they would do, that was more in 1945, they were doing that, scuttling them. So they'd offload their crew, they'd offload what they had, and then they'd get rid of the evidence. Now, remember, in 1945, they didn't have, even though technology was much more advanced than they give the idea, coastlines have moved a little bit. There's been a lot of shifting of earth when they scuttle it. They're not thinking in 80 years or so, 85 years, that we're going to be looking. They don't really care, do they? So they're in reasonably shallow water. Most of these boats are within 6 kilometers of the coastline. And where are we on? Let's have a look what images you've got. So,
okay, I'm going to pull some images up here. Was this the map that you were referring to earlier?
Right, let me have a look what you've got there. I need to go and have a look.
It's a little...
Yes, it is. It's very small, I'm afraid. Okay, what I'm going to do here, if you look on there, if somebody takes a big map of Argentina, right at the top you can see the city La Plata, okay? And then if you come down, you drag your finger down, you come all the way down. Where that red image is, that is the actual map that was presented to the spy in 1943, and they asked him to mark on there where they were dropping off these valuables, these submarines, and he put here El Rancho. Now, El Rancho is about 3 kilometers from where we were boarding our boats, and we confirmed the Necochea U-boat Type 9 U-boat in 2024. Now, a lot of people can say, oh, well, what evidence do you have? Obviously, the narrative, it's not very convenient that the mainstream media will talk about, we've confirmed there is a U-boat down here, because anybody that mentions that U-boats were down here during 1945, there were two. There were two that came here, and in July 1945, 2 boats, and they surrendered. Their crews were taken aboard and they were interrogated by British intelligence, funny enough, because remember, Argentina was neutral. And they were taken, I think both of them were taken by the Americans, and they were used as target practice. So, in fact, the Americans took everything at the end of the war, when they were doing these deals, which they did those deals at least a year before with the British. I get that, you keep that, you keep that. And the Americans took basically all the hardware, as they do. And we were in debt with them, remember, because we'd had these massive loans off the Americans. People, I'm sorry, forgive me, I know you're American. But everybody talks about, we came in and we saved you guys. No, we paid, and you would never have come in if Pearl Harbor hadn't happened, but that's another story because we believe, I believe, and other colleagues of mine believe, as
I
did
do too.
John Ainsworth Davis, that the bombing of Pearl Harbor was a deliberate act. We didn't plan to do it, but we knew it was going to happen. But
Yes.
what Churchill did, Churchill shut our guys up, our intel guys. We knew that Pearl Harbor was going to be bombed, and the guys on the XK-17, the 17 submarine, it was a Dutch submarine because they were our allies. They were actually all silenced, and they were basically bombed, so they didn't come back. And Pearl Harbor was bombed because we needed you guys to come in the war. So
Oh, I didn't
you
know that
guys,
aspect of it.
oh
That's
yeah,
amazing. I
it's
mean, I
very
knew that
dirty.
FDR stood down. He knew.
Yeah.
And he needed a reason to get into the war. So the question is, did the Brits tell him, or did he get that from another source too? It sounds
I
like
don't.
both Britain and
I don't know
it
what
sound
happened was that
yes.
Churchill knew, and the intelligence came back, and John Ainsworth Davis was sent to the submarine, the Dutch submarine, to take gifts, hampers. It was not long before Christmas, and they were given the hampers, and there were explosives in the hampers, and they were all basically shut down because in those days the intelligence sending stuff backwards and forwards wasn't like it was today. Of course, you got Morse code and stuff like that, but you weren't going to pass that normal intelligence about the Japanese planning. It was very, very, very classified stuff. So the Brits, the Dutch was silenced, and they say that Queen Beatrix was involved as well. I mean, you can't be surprised at this stuff. People talk about Kennedy, but we know Kennedy was not a lone gunman. We know that he wasn't a civilian, and we know that these were agencies that were involved.
Absolutely. Not to mention, in America, we were just coming out of the Great Depression, and they needed something to jumpstart the economy. And as I've always heard, there's nothing like a war to crank up.
Exactly, knock it down and build it up again. And we
Right?
companies in there. Okay, now if you look at the image on the screen there, because this is quite a vast thing and I don't want to bore the listeners too much, but this is our map. And when I say our map, Abel Basti, an Argentine journalist and newspaper editor and an investigator, I met him many years ago. I think it was probably in 2003 or 4. I came across him when I first came down here, and I was looking for things to do, and I started looking for Borman. And originally I was going to do a program called Children of Odessa, because I realized a lot of the grandchildren, nephews of some of these big guys, that Muller and Mengele and Vernet, Karl Vernet, who was the guy who he was actually the one that taught Mengele. He was a doctor, and he transferred and implanted monkeys' testicles in gay guys in the concentration camps. I mean, he was an absolute monster. You're laughing.
Did it
That's the
work?
truth. I don't think so. But anyway.
No, there was another dude that you could pay, and he would put a monkey gland and stitch it on your ball sack. I mean, that is true, but
Yeah, well, that's what he did. He thought if he could
that's horrible.
change homosexuals to be straight by implanting monkeys' testicles. And also, they use that here for injecting certain hormones into women to be eternally young. Vernet ended up being buried here in the British cemetery in Buenos Aires. He was one of the biggest war criminals. Not many people talk about him. But anyway, so his grandson, his son, and they all have these children. So my plan originally was to make a television series about the children of Odessa, being what happened, how they were inserted into the community, how they live today, what are their lives like here, because they're just part of the local community. Nobody cares about Nazis, because the Argentines were pro-Nazi.
You got to do
anyway,
that book. Listen, you got to do that. Write that down. You got to double back around and do that one.
Shannon, I'm getting very old and I've got too many things to do.
I don't think so. I think we discovered the secret of your eternal youth.
Yeah, yeah, I need
land.
a monkey ball, don't I? Really? I need I need more than that. And I need to put a few on my face. Anyway, I don't know what's more attractive, my face or the monkey ball strapped to it. It's not a very nice picture. Okay, let's get back to the map. Now, on the map, you can see here. So, this map is courtesy of my amazing colleague and friend. We became very good friends, Abel Basti. Abel's written now probably 14 books. We don't agree on everything. He focused very much on Hitler, and I focused always much more on Martin Bormann. And he would say to me, I think probably as early as, like, I don't know, 2014, we've got to focus on the submarines. And I used to say, Abel, it's just too complicated. You know, already I'm trying to follow Martin Bormann, Heinrich Müller, and those things, and the submarines are just too much hard work. So anyway, he focused in the fact, because what happened was let's go and give you a little bit of background first. Okay, so this happened in World War II, and we knew that, but it went pretty much quiet until 1996, when Carlos Menem, now he was a president, he was they call it Justalicia Party, Justalist Party or something. They've always, but basically they were all Peronistas. And it's quite funny how the Peronist cause has moved, because we know Juan Perón really was a dictator. We know that. They make out he was a big socialist and everything. Yeah, they were, but he was a dictator. Anyway, Carlos Menem comes in 1996. He ordered what was called Operation Calypso, and it was to investigate the possible presence of U-boats in the area of Caleta de los Loros, which was in Patagonia in Argentina. So in August 1996, so he comes up out the blue, he wants to investigate that because they were talking about it, and he was fascinated by this. And in August 1997, they set up an expedition. They used 3 ships, 2 Grumman S2 tracker aircraft, and they specialize in these aircraft specialize in anti-submarine warfare, but they were utilized to see whether they could find any scuttled submarines along the Argentine coast. Anyway, over one area, they detected 2 strong points, magnetic anomalies. This is in 1997. And then they found 4 additional points, which were indicating the presence of really large metallic objects in that area alone. So anyway, but the result, they released that, but then the magnetographic results, that means like the actual mapping of what the object was never disclosed, right? So a lot of people went to court and say, we want this disclosure, we need transparency here, but then a judge decided and classified them to be military secrets, and since 1997 they were sort of buried. Anyway, that was part of Menem's commission of inquiry into the activities of Nazism in Argentina. It was called CEANA, CEANA. So if anyone's interested in that, they Google CEANA and you might find it. Probably be in Spanish, but today you can translate stuff. Anyway, what did come out of that they decided to say, no, only 2 German submarines were ever down here. And those were the 2 that formally surrendered to the naval base in Mar del Plata, one in July 1945, and then the other one was in August. Okay. So they were all interrogated by the Americans and the British, and those basically were taken in the custody of, in fact, I'll tell you where they went. One of them was taken off to the port of Boston in the United States. In January 1946, they were blown up. One was U-977, and it was used as naval target practice, and it was struck by a torpedo in November of that same year. And then I think, yes, U-530, the other one that surrendered, was repurposed as an experimental submarine. And then that was also sunk later on by a torpedo from USS USS Toro during naval exercises in November 1947.
What the
So
heck?
after that, oh yeah, you didn't
They
know
could
that?
have just they could have just put some rubber raft out there. Why didn't they save those U-boats and put them in a museum? Come on.
Because they're boys with toys. Come on, what's more fun than going out there with torpedoes? Great target practice. I mean, you can't use. What are you going to use for target practice? It was great for them to have something to blow up. They're not going to blow up their own hardware, are they? Anyway, so what happened then? So then we get to we have a lot of documentation. Let's explain first of all. So we're neutral, okay? Now, there was a communique that was sent. Now, we know that there was a great network of German spies operating down here right from 1940, 41. And some of these guys who were sucked into the German networks of intelligence down here were guys that were working on the Graf Spee. Because remember, when the Graf Spee went down, all the sailors were taken into custody. They were actually put in a hotel in Buenos Aires. They were extremely comfortable. The local German community were bringing them, strudel and all those things and looking after them. They were having a great time. Although one or two of them was very fed up and very unhappy and wanted to get back, you know, representing the great German nation and doing something. And they were taken into intelligence down here. Now, there were several hotbeds of intelligence in Argentina. Actually, as a center, was the center we spoke about in Inalco, down in Villa Angostura, that beautiful villa, which some claim was built for Adolf Hitler. And more, I'm starting to believe it's correct. So we had all these movements. And what was very interesting, I'll tell you what was very interesting. Now, at the end of the war, we had these two submarines that turned up, these U-boats, okay, in 1945. You imagine crossing the Atlantic. That's a long trip going underwater. So they came very worse for wear when they arrived here, taken into custody. But what was very, very strange, knowing that U-boats were coming down here doing a bunk from Europe, what are you going to tell your Coast Guard? You're going to tell your Coast Guard to step it up? No. And we've actually got evidence of messages that were sent for the Argentine Coast Guard to step down. And basically, they gave them a window of opportunity for these boats to come in. We've got a lot of the messages that were given, and we managed to get those through classified files here in Argentina, and also some Kriegsmarine files, proving that they were asked to stand down and more boats came in. And they came up and down the coast. Now, that map, what we believe that map to be, that's what, with a lot of blood and guts, Abel has. Those are the locations we believe. We've already got one of them. And there's something quite funny actually that happened. One of the coordinates. Now, when I say coordinates, these are suspected wrecks, unregistered. Now, there's a very big difference here. As we know, in maritime law, when there's a wreck and it's within the coastal distance of a sovereign nation, so it's 6 kilometers. I think it's within 12 or 6. I think it's within 12. And if anything happens within those that stretch of water that goes out, then that becomes part. That's an investigation for that nation. So any wrecks that are suspected within that 12-kilometer strip that goes around the coast, the nation there is responsible to investigate. Now, this is how it works. Once a wreck, whatever it is, it could be a galleon, it could be a U-boat, it could be anything, an ice cream van. A wreck that goes down has to be investigated, and they have to open. A judge has to open up a case, and it's a crime scene until an investigation is done, because it's unregistered. It's only registered and placed on the maritime wreck map once we know more or less what it is, and it's there. Now, you have to understand where this submarine was that we confirmed in 2024 as being a Type 9 U boat. It was in a major shipping lane, only 5.5 kms off the Argentine coast. And that lane was in one of the most important lanes with major tankers coming in, carrying stuff where they offload containers, international. So this was dangerous. And this was at only from 29 to 34 meters of depth, right? We're not talking 80 meters. Now, if you're in a very, very big, um, I don't know, tanker or cruise ship or something, that's pretty dangerous, right? Now, isn't it interesting? We've had sonar, multi scan sonar on these ships for various years. So, boats coming back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, they would report it and they'd say in captain's log, we when we went over that area today, we noticed a large metallic object, because it could be dangerous to the ships that are going in and out. So even though that had been reported multiple times, at least over the last 2 decades, the Peronist government did nothing, and they had an obligation to go down there and investigate. It was only investigated because Abel Basti, from 2010, started asking, number one, because I'm not going to say how we got them, but we got several coordinates from the classified files of the Siena report, okay, without going into too many details. And are you still there?
I am listening and learning. And if you're just joining us, welcome. We're live with Lawrence DeMello. We're talking about the hunt for the German U-boats that came to Argentina. Back to you.
Okay, so going back to that map, if you could bring that map back on, please. We've lost it. So, I haven't got a pointer on here. We need to find a way to do that in the future. Now, if you look here in the middle, it says Caleta de los Loros. Can you see that, where it says Caleta de los Loros? Wouldn't it be good if I could
Ma'am.
put a pointer? Okay, and there's one underneath.
Absolutely.
And there are two. Of course, I've blacked them out, obviously, because we're not going to release them. So one of them we know, which is the one that we got. But then there are these other ones. So only because of Abel Basti, let's focus on the Necochea anomaly, which had been reported by multiple by multiple captains, and the Argentine government ignored it. Only because Abel continuously wrote. We've got the letters where he first wrote, and he wrote to the Ministry of Defense. And one off-guard administrator wrote back and said, "Oh yes, the wrecks that we've got, etc., they are part of the Siena." And then he wrote again. He said, "Could you please give us the information?" And then the chap wrote back another letter to say, "Oh, I'm very sorry. This is a military secret." Now, if there was nothing there, why would they be military secrets?
Right.
So, because of the constant bombing of the government that Abel did, they couldn't ignore it and they had to open an investigation. So what do you do? How does the investigation start? It's logged first, then it's reported, and the judiciary have to open a case because you have to mark it as a crime scene. Doesn't matter if it's 100 years old, 200 years old, 50 years old. We need to know, was that a vessel? Why did it go down? We have to identify her and who was on board. What was she carrying? What was she laden with? That is all part of the investigation. So at the time where this pressure was put on the Argentine government, Cristina Kirchner was in government. Okay. I'm not going to go into too many details about the government because I've had to make friends with some people to get certain things. So, but I don't need to elaborate on that. So obviously, very reluctantly, they opened what should have been an investigation. And she brought together 12 tactical divers, no dive command. There wasn't a man, there was nobody there to go out with a plan. Basically, she sent out these 12 tactical divers. They didn't know what they were doing. It was all for show. They spent about 250 to $300,000 to take the boats out there. It's a very, very difficult dive because the position of where that Necochea wreck was, it's where the waters come down from, where the coast they meet. It's very, very turbulent. Apart from the fact it's very dangerous for the currents, but also it's really, really, you can't see. And if you use lights, even with a rove, or you go down with any equipment, it's so dense with the turbulence that the light just reflects back. Like when you're driving in fog, heavy fog, and you put on your full beams, you can't put your full beams on because you get blinded and you can't see ahead of you. So it's pretty much like that. So it was a very difficult dive. But when they got some divers down there was no plan given. They should have said, right, you're going down to this level. We want you to take photographs from that point to that point. We have to take multiple thousands of pictures so we can then reconstruct it as you can. You build it up, right, to make it multidimensional so we can see what's down there. Well, Abel, because he was the one that reported it, he's basically an interested person in the report. So thankfully for that, we managed to get all the documentation from this supposed investigation. And what they did, the divers, it was really hysterical. They sent down divers and also some roves, but they were literally taking photographs off the rove's monitor with their cell phones. I mean, it was just so badly organized because they didn't want it organized. They wanted to shut it down. What happened then? So we had access to the stuff that the images and the data that was given to us and the footage by the prefectura, the Argentine prefecture, and of course the military, their naval, and what was done with it. When then we sent the reports, there was no report done and there was nobody. So that's when we brought in on our team, which was a wonderful forensic diver, and that's Dr. Fabio Bisciotti, Bisciotti, and he actually works for the Lega Navale d'Italia, the Naval Italian League, and he is used frequently by the Pentagon and by the Royal Navy to go down and identify World War One and World War Two wrecks. That's what he does, but not just ships, also aircraft that have been downed. And in fact, Fabio is responsible for a lot of the recovery of remains of families of downed aircraft, etc., to give them some closure of, particularly aircraft from World War Two. So the report, and Fabio is also, by the way, a maritime attorney. And that's very important because he knows what he's doing, what we can do, what we can't do. So the reports, all the documents were sent to Fabio. Fabio did a really good forensic report. We brought in another chap who is a very, very important forensic in Argentina, and he works for lots of big agencies. They both agreed that what we could see, this looked like a submarine, a U-boat, and we had the images of their of what it all went into the report. When the report came back, he then sent it back to the government, and they were really upset about this, and they shut down the whole investigation. They just shut it down. They thought that they could just get away with it by just shutting it down, but they'd obviously picked on the wrong people that weren't going to go away, and Abel really made a stink. So what was the next thing? Now, we suspected it was submarine, and we went down to find out how we could actually get down now. Now, if it's a wreck, they did actually then put it on the map that it was a wreck, but they didn't say what it was. Now, if you go through, there should be an image there, and you can see, could you go through some images that I sent you? There's one that's green. Okay. No, those are another two images that we suspect. They coincide with the Siena investigation, but there's something else. Now, That will go back to afterwards. If you go forward, Shannon, and find me this photograph of green water with
Okay,
some
green
under.
water. Got it. Yes, ma'am.
Right, right. Can you see those? Now, they probably don't mean
Yes.
anything to anybody. Now, what Fabio gleaned from the images that we've got now, they are what's called limber holes. Now, limber holes on submarines, they're the ones that you have all along because when the boat comes up, whoosh, all the water flushes out through the limber holes of the submarine. Yeah. So
Yes.
those they were measured along with other images that we had underneath from that where we put down. Actually, that is also from the second recce that we did. But they're limber holes from a submarine. So there's lots of stuff, but the actual hull is broken up in various places. And she's also shifted down into the sand because of the lots of years have passed and the currents, etc. So what did we need to do then? We had all we needed. We got the imagery, we got the reports. Now we wanted to get down there ourselves. Now, if there's a wreck, it's not recognized. First of all, you have to find out who owns it, who's going to claim it. Argentina's not going to claim it. Number one, how many submarines have they had? Very few. And the two that they had that were loaned by America, they know what they are. That's not it. So, what is it that's down there? So, we had to find out who owned it because we had to go to the owners of the wreck to say, do you, Claire, did you, is this your wreck? Yes or no? They say, yes, it's mine. We have to ask permission to dive or do further forensics on the wreck. We have to get their permission. If no owner is found, then it's free for all. We can go down there and we can build an expedition. So basically, we needed a green light. What did Abel do? From 2000, from the time that we knew the wreck was a wreck, he wrote to the Bundeswehr, the German Ministry of Defense, and he wrote to them, included all the reports, beautifully prepared presentation to say, this is what we did. These are the images we got from the Argentine prefecture in 2021. We now want to go down. Do you own this? Whatever. And they said, oh, it's not ours. Well, they didn't respond for 9 months.
Nine
And
months. Wow.
nothing, blackout. So the Bundeswehr wrote back, and they were quite. They said, "Look, you have to get in touch with the German ambassador in Buenos Aires." So he wrote off to the German ambassador because they said, "Of course, that's the first. That's the diplomatic mission. That's the first port of call. The military are not going to comment." So we had to go through the ambassador. So Abel starts again. He resends a report. It's all registered. It's all done. Could you meet with silence? Nothing.
Okay, let
Now,
me insert a question right there.
yeah,
Okay, here we are. Let's just say 75, 80 plus years
yeah,
beyond the event. Now, in modern day Germany, I don't know
yeah.
the answer to this. Do they keep scrupulous records? Do they know which U boats were used in World War II and what their disposition was? I mean, they lose the
Yes, they,
war, but what happened to the military records? Do they keep files?
well, yeah, they know all that, but they get out of it with a very clever twist. So I'll tell
So
you what they said.
pick
Okay,
back up. 9 months goes by, no response. What happens next?
right. So that's when I came in, and I was already sort of involved with what he was doing. But he said they're not going to respond. I said, well, I will get them to respond because the advantage of also being a British journalist, credentialed journalist, okay, with passes, I can put some pressure on. So I prepared an email to the German ambassador and I wrote to him and I basically said to him, Your Excellency, I know that Abel Basti sent you these files, sent you these reports by Dr. Bisciotti, his great credential, the whole thing. I am actually going to write an article in the British press, which I did in I don't know, the Express or the Mail. And I said, so I'm going to be publishing this. I'd already got in touch with the editor, the senior editor for the Mail in the United Kingdom, who I know quite well, and she's chief of bureau for the Americas. And I said, look, we need to do this. She said, yeah, we need to get that from the embassy. And I said, this is how we do it. So I set it all up. I said to them, so what are you going to do? Are you going to answer? These are the questions. Do you deny this? Have you seen the report? Why have you not responded? It's been 9 months. This is a failing of your diplomatic mission. The Argentine government have recognized there is a wreck there. This is a report. We know it's a submarine. Are you going to say, is it yours or not? And they actually wrote back within 24 hours. Oh, because I also said, well, we'll just have to publish and say that you just refuse to respond. Doesn't look good, does it?
I love it.
Right. So, yeah, we've got all the emails. Actually, it's quite funny. Abel and I laughed a lot about that. He said, no, they're not going to answer. 24 hours they responded. And you know what they did? They responded to me and they said, Lawrence DeMero, thank you so much. Blah. Oh, and I don't know if I ever told you this. I have trackers on my emails, and the email had been opened like 75 times from when I sent it.
I need
Forwarded
that high
it.
technology. You're going to have to teach me that. Keep going.
No, it's nothing high tech. I mean, they're not so, they've got really, really clever now, the agencies, and what they do now, they've really locked down these trackers because they don't want people to know what they're doing either. Who they send it to and before I had trackers where you could literally see, it would give you the building where it was opened. Let's say in Florida on this street in this
Amazing.
location it was opened. So anyway, it was open about 75 times. And I did get a nice reply from the press office because I used my press credentials. And I said, look, I'm publishing this. So are you in or are you out? And she's very nice, the assistant. We're just checking. We've got to get hold of. And it went to Berlin. It went to here and it went to there. 24 hours later, it comes back and I've got the email. I should have sent it to you actually because I shouldn't have to worry about keeping that undercover anymore. And it actually says, Lawrence DeMello, thank you for your email. We have been in touch with Abel Basti. Abel then pings me on WhatsApp. They emailed me. So they emailed him 20 minutes before they wrote to me, oh, we've already responded to Abel. Can you imagine? And the submarine is not ours. Listen, the submarine is not ours. The submarine.
Wow.
They don't say the wreck. They literally say submarine. Now, how do they get out of that? Now, first of all, Abel was really happy because that means we could pull together at that point an expedition and we could find funding to we could go down there because they said it doesn't belong to us. So basically it's free for all. It's like treasure trove. We go down there. Nobody's claimed it. Argentina doesn't own it because if they say, oh yeah, it's we know about this U-boat, they're admitting to knowing this narrative that they've covered up for such a
Was that a Freudian slip, or were they trying to throw you a bone when they said the submarine?
I think so. Okay. I think it was a big mistake. They couldn't suck it back. So we were laughing so much. So, and I used that actually. I went to press and we put that in the article. The German ambassador said the submarine is not ours. But I'll tell you what happened about that. And that's very, very worrying. What happened to that article? I'll get back to that in a second if I'm not going too off on track. So what happened then? At that point, we could bring together an expedition because we basically had green light. And we didn't have any right. There are restrictions because you can't just go down there because they're all getting excited about, the props from these U-boats. I mean, can you imagine making a coffee table out of one of those? I mean, it's just amazing. And we needed to go down and find the propellers, really, to find the serial number on the propellers so we could identify which boat it was. Unfortunately, we didn't get that far because we did get a sponsor come on board. I took over the expedition. We did have another guy, but I took over by default because there were problems with the expedition, political problems. So I stepped in as leader of the expedition. He just focused on the paperwork. And then a sponsor came in, which was a little bit unfortunate. We did go down to Necochea in April 2024. Over a period of 6 days, we did the scans, the sonars. We lost 2 roves down there. Now, if you go backwards to the image where you can see on the radar, you can see you've got an image where go back, blue. Now, you can't see very clearly on there, but what you can see there, that is actually an image, a photograph I took of the screen on one of the days of us down there. Now, what you can see there, we noticed when we got down there. Now, the images that were taken 2 years before were different. You could see the wreck. And now our plan, and we also had a very, very high tech diver with us, okay, that came in from another country. And that image, we lost a rove as soon as it went down. First of all, you've got to find it again, because people think it's absolutely certain when you do coordinates on the sea. It's not that easy. It's not like saying, okay, we've hit that box in that building on that road. It doesn't move. But when you're going out on a boat, you spend a day and a half just going up and down and up and in rough water. You know, we were like 350. We shouldn't have been out there in April. We actually missed the window. We should have been there in March, because March is when you cut off. You really can't dive there. You can't even keep a boat on there. And I have to tell you, most of the crew were really sick. Thank goodness I've got my daddy's sea legs, and I cope quite well. But Abel was prostate for 3 hours at one point. He was so sick. And the prefecture didn't want us to go out. But anyway, that image, what you can see there is actually one of the images of tons and tons of aluminium truss that had now been deposited all over the wreck. So the entire U-boat site was contaminated with aluminium truss. And they had been placed there since the first recce that went out in 2020, end of 21, 22.
Imagine that. A vast ocean.
Imagine that. Right. So,
and someone decides to dump it right there at those coordinates.
Right. So I've got multiple images of those, but some images I cannot reveal. But that image, in fact, if we can blow it up, you can probably see the date on it. I don't know. I can't. Let me see if I can blow that up. Your screen. It might give you a little bit more thing. Right now, obviously, we had two boats. I was with, which was perfect. It was Calypso. Calypso is important because, you know, Jacques Cousteau's boat was Calypso. And Jacques Cousteau was looking for submarines as well. So I thought that was really quite nice. And Abel was on Kona on the other boat. So both of us, not interrogated, but asked the captain, like, what's going on here? Why is this happening? So they told us that about 2 months before they knew we were going down, there was a large vessel, a naval vessel, that was over the zone for about 4 days, literally over it. And they must have been dumping these trusts. Now, there are two things that you glean. There are many things you can glean from that.
This is horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible. And it was the Argentine Navy that did it. Now, we believe the ship may have been French. And what they did to get out of it, they coordinated with a French ship, okay? So they wouldn't be blamed entirely. I can't go into too much details here because it's just stuff that I don't want to go near.
I'm not surprised, but
on the air.
The real question that needs to be asked by each person tuning in is, why would they go to that extreme, which they did, to cover up history that occurred 75, 80 years ago? Why?
Right.
There's a very important answer to that. Now, back to you.
Before we went out on that one, we were communicating with a senator, a big senator here in the Senate. And we were putting a lot of pressure on politicians to say, Christina Kirchner has blocked this thing. We've got these images. We've got these reports. We need now more support from, we can't shut this down. We need to further this because she has not, we didn't actually say she hasn't done her job because she was still in power at that time. But basically what's happening with the judicial case, what's happening with the investigation as the crime scene, they dropped the ball. And they dropped the ball after Fabio's report was presented. opposite of what we would expect, that they'd say, oh, okay, we're going to spend some more money to do that. No, they shut it down. So we managed to get a couple of senators. The senator wrote some fabulous reports and made reports within the Senate, which we've got everything, saying this is probably the most important finding in the last 80 years for Argentine history, and we need transparency. And I was all on for that. I thought, oh, this guy is great. So, of course, that was all we're all going to do, left, right, and center. So after that, there's some there were some things that happened that I wasn't very happy about with how it went, the what happened with the expeditions, and I felt it was captured for political motives. And I made it very, very clear that I don't care who's on the expedition. We're going to have Nazis, we can have Jews, we can have French, we can have Chinese. I don't care, because the investigation has to be apolitical, right? We're not there to prove a point. This is not about the Holocaust. This is not about the Nazis. It's not about anything. It's about history. And we want to know, did these boats come here or not? Now, there are a lot of people that have an interest in this. So you say, why would they do that? When Fabio looked at some of the metal fatigue on some of the images that we did manage to get close up, although we couldn't get very good forensic samples for analysis, it looked to him like, yes, they were scuttled, but the type of explosive that created the type of fracture within the metal looked like that explosive was only available to the Americans and the British in 1945. Got it?
Very interesting. Yes.
So there are a lot of interests here. Now, I've already got the files proving that, even though today, when I wrote, let's go back to the article. I wrote the editor in London is the one that actually decides what goes in the article. But I'm close with the chief of bureau for the Mail group and the Mail on Sunday. And I said to her, we need to do this article. What is it? It's a feature. I did a 3,000 word feature on this, including everything. And what I did, I called the director of the Simon Wiesenthal Center of South America, okay? And he agreed to be interviewed. Initially, he didn't want to be interviewed. And Dr. Ariel Gelblum. Now, he didn't want to be interviewed because he was a little bit fractious because Abel was on the expedition. And he said, I don't want to get involved with Abel because he talks about Hitler. And I said, listen, Ariel, this has got nothing to do with Hitler. This is not a myth. This is a 40-meter piece of metal sitting at the bottom of the ocean, right? Or 80 meters, 80 meter. And she's like 8 meters wide. We've had confirmation. We've got a report. I need you to give us a comment. What do you think about this? Because this proves, you're taking funding, the Simon Wiesenthal Center, millions and millions and millions over the years for hunting Nazis. That's what the original
right.
The objective was, right?
Right.
When and Simon Wiesenthal was there. So I said, so I think you should do that. And good enough, he said, okay, I'll give you an interview. So I got an exclusive interview for the article from the head of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, LATAM, Latin America.
Amazing.
And he said,
wow.
We need very nice guy, transparency, blah, blah. So I have to, the stuff he gave me must have been 4 paragraphs. Nice. Now, if I was an editor, I'd go, oh, great. What have you got? Got exclusive. Yeah, we've got the German ambassador's comment about his response that it's not our submarine. We've got the Simon Wiesenthal Center saying, oh my God, we need transparency. This is very important. We've got Fabio Bisciotti, the guy who works for the Pentagon and everything. Great, even though I wrote it, great feature, juicy. Now, if I was an editor, I'd say, yeah, let's go. Now, unfortunately, it was delayed because we had the death of Her Majesty the Queen. right? So it kept getting pushed back, and it wasn't spiked; it was pushed back because obviously they've got to deal with things that are priority. It kept going back and back. It was all confirmed. Finally, we got a date and we went to publication. And the publication came out, and I thanked everybody. Thanks so much, guys. It's coming out. This is great because we needed that press to get us, hopefully, more support, maybe, financiers, because you need a lot of money to do that stuff. When you're diving and doing, you need a lot, right? So, um, the article came out. I got a girlfriend actually to buy hard copies in the UK for me because I'm in Buenos Aires. And you cannot believe the article that came out. They completely slashed it to smithereens. They removed the Simon Wiesenthal Center commentary. They removed the German ambassador's commentary.
What?
They yes, they inserted a comment by a historian, inverted commas, from some university in the United Kingdom. I've never spoken to the chap in my life. And it's got my byline on it by Lawrence de Mello. Basically, it sabotages the entire expedition, makes a laughing stock of it, inserts, I'll never work with the Mail again, I'm telling you now, in the director, the editor, and it was sabotage. So you can imagine, I look like I've betrayed all the people that I've gone and got all this information off. I've made them a laughing stock. I made the expedition a laughing stock. Well, of course, I did go ballistic. And I called the editor, and she said, I don't, not the editor, the chief of bureau. She said, I don't know why he's done this. And what really annoyed me, it's not about copying down the copy. You can do that. We don't have space. We've only got 2 inches left. But don't dare insert a commentary, invert in quotes, as if I have interviewed this person and I would dare to put in. And that guy, he said, this is ridiculous, absolute rot. Words to the effect of that. Basically, it's absolute rubbish that submarines have been down there in Argentina. That's what they
I
did
wonder,
to the.
could this guy been on the payroll of MI6?
Of course,
You know, in America,
exactly.
there's a lot of CIA agents that work at news
Well, you've
companies.
just got to the point what I was going to get to. So there, there's a thing that used to be called a D notice in the time of war. A D notice is a defense notice, and I came across a lot of those when I was doing the book on Commander Harold Golding, who worked, who died in 1945, and we believe the book that I did, Churchill's Secret Commander. So I'm very familiar with D notices. So the D notice of World War II and what it was, a defense notice. So what happens? It's not an absolute order, but the government, the Ministry of War or Defense, will send a message to the big editors and say, don't mention this commander, don't mention that, because it's a threat to national security at the time. And that's acceptable. In fact, I used to be very concerned about during the Gulf War how, news items, and they were saying where people were. You have to go off radar when you're doing military operations. You're not supposed to put it on the news. You can say, we lost so many soldiers today, this is moving well, but you don't give away information to the enemy. So
Right.
I then
But
did an
who is the
investigation.
enemy?
Well, the
Who is
editor is
the
one of them.
enemy
The editor is one of
today?
them. We'll come back, yeah. And I found out it's now changed. It's not called a D notice. It's called a defense and media something notice. And guess what? They've got like 3 UK editors on the board, the commission that decides what goes in the newspapers or what. And that bloody editor from the Daily Mail, I hope he hears this, is on that board that decides. So they are fed. We don't want that. It's not in our interest. Kill it. You need to spike that story. And that's what they did. They squashed it. So what does that tell us? That puts us in a very difficult position. So not only are we dealing now with dark forces in Argentina that are covering this up, but who are they taking instructions from? And they're covering it up, you say 80 years ago. No, because imagine if tomorrow we publish and we say, do you know what? These submarines were coming down here. America were involved. The Brits were involved. Or if they weren't involved, they knew it was happening. I mean, look, British intelligence knew, and they had maps in 1943 that submarines were coming down here. They had an interrogation of this spy. I've got all the paperwork, all the maps, all the stuff that was revealed, but they didn't stop it. They allowed it to happen. If you sit on the fence, you're a participant, right? So they allowed it to continue. So here's the narrative, them saying that it wasn't going on. So they're covering up, obviously. Bormann got away. Hitler very probably came down here. So if you start coming up with the smoking guns like physical U-boats, oh, look, we've got about 8 coordinates that we believe are U-boats. I have to tell you something quite funny, actually. Abel had something that we found while he was out there looking. He was out there literally looking, boots on the ground, and I carried on with other stuff at the moment. And he'd sent me some images, and we believed it was a wreck. It's certainly a wreck, and it's very accessible. And he wanted me to include that in looking for financing for our next expedition. We're not going back to Necochea. Necochea is done. We did actually now, since there's been a change of government with Xavier Millet, who is not a Peronist, and we've actually got a really good letter only this year, actually, earlier this year, from the Vice President of Argentina. And she has written in there, this is a very important find, the submarine, etc. So we've got it recognized by this government, but that doesn't finance the next expedition. But on one of these, so we'll get to that. On one of these coordinates that we found, Abel had some communications with me in the last 2 months. And we're pretty sure now that one of the things that we found in this research is not actually a U-boat. And it is very possible, it's that madness, one of Sir Francis Drake's expedition boats of 1577 down here. So because the equipment that was sent down there to monitor it and measure it, it comes back, it's all wood. It's a wooden vessel, and it's very deep. It's about 3 meters down in the sand. And what we thought was a U-boat, but it looks like it is one of the boats that Sir Francis Drake scuttled down here because they lost the crew due to, fevers and stuff like that,
Well,
as part of his big expedition.
if you come across a lead coffin filled with mercury, call the OMEGAMAN. I'm very interested.
Why is that?
Supposedly, they buried his body in that and put him out to sea.
Whose body?
Oh, that Drake, apparently. If I've got the right guy, they put him in a lead coffin filled with mercury.
Drake. Oh, I don't know what they did with him. What did they do with him? I don't know.
That's the myth. I don't know, but they're looking for it, though. A lead coffin filled with a body of mercury.
I have put out some feelers since then with the Sir Francis Drake Society in the United Kingdom. I thought I'd go to the top boys. Very difficult to get information. They did finally respond because he suggested that I go and buy his, 20-volume, big, heavy back books to find the answers to the question. I asked him, could you please confirm what the name of the boat was that he scuttled down here? Was it the Christopher? Was it the Santa Maria? Because,
Right.
he was stealing boats away, And he said, buy my books and you can find out. And I said, no, I'm
What
not
the
doing
heck?
that, mate. Please be so kind.
Good grief. I'll tell you, that's pretty amazing. You're looking.
Could you give us a handout here? We're trying to get equipment together, go and check out what it is. So could you please just help us to, a case of elimination, what it could and can't be because of the length. We know
Right.
how big it is. But it does look like it is one of those boats from the 16th century. But and we're actually
How exciting this is. Everybody loves a good shipwreck and a treasure recovered. And now listen, folks.
There won't be treasure on there because what he did, he stripped it. I did get the information. They stripped, obviously all her big sheets and everything went. They took everything that was above deck, basically, that they could use for firewood and things like that. So there wouldn't be treasure in there because they cleaned it out and then they scuttled her because they didn't want to leave her, and they burnt her masts or chopped it for wood because we didn't want the Spanish to get her because at the time, remember. Right?
At the
So,
yes.
So that was it.
Maybe
Yeah.
Maybe there's some bottles or something down there at the bottom in the wood.
Oh, I'm sure there'll be that sort of stuff that they don't think is
Sure.
important then. Throwing out bottles and vats and things like that that are in there that could be in plates and that sort of stuff that could be interesting to us. But here's the interesting thing: they all like to think that they know, but they don't actually know where he scuttled the boats. Why is that? Because we have to remember, while we look on Sir Francis Drake, these were military operations. And the expedition was financed by Elizabeth I, Henry VIII's daughter. You know that. Um, and obviously, they're not going to tell the Spanish what was going on or where she is. So even at the time, then it was classified information. And if you think it's now, how many years is it now? For
Like
15,
400, 500 years?
400, almost 500 years, 480 odd years. So it's a long time. So that would be really beautiful if she is that. So when you say you've got to do that thing, now that's cropped up. That's something else. So go back to the U-boats. So with the U-boats, Abel and I sort of split and went two different directions at that point, because he had a very kind sponsor, but I wanted to look for other funding without going into details. And it's been very, very hard. It's very, very hard to find people. So we do have other coordinates in Argentina. One is not enough. I'm not happy with one. We've got one, it's confirmed. She's a Type 9 U-boat. I think we need to get three. Once we've got three, we can then say, you see, they were flotillas. It wasn't just one or two. But that also confirms three came down here, because the ones that came down July 45, August 45, this one, we don't know when, because we haven't been able to get the serial number, because she's quite deep down. But we're certainly not going back with all that chatarra, they call it, all that dumping. She's contaminated the whole field. It's too dangerous, and it's not worth losing divers over. We already lost one rove when we were there on day 2. We already lost one
Oh,
because of that.
those
Yeah,
aren't
yeah.
cheap, are they? Amazing.
No, they're not. So anyway, we got what we needed. We did get some more imagery, and we got some more forensic stuff, but that's it. We don't need to go back.
Shall
We'll
we
yeah.
show a picture that came up from the expedition
What have
that
you
we
got
haven't
there?
shown? Okay, let me put a couple of these up here. What are these that we're looking
Okay,
at?
right. Now this photograph is one of the original ones that was taken. We got from the prefecture. Now you can see actually that photograph. You can see there's a button there. That was taken with a cell phone. Right, I'll tell you what that was. That is actually the one of the attack periscope, and that was seen on the first recce. Now she's attached, but she was floating, very fragile in that she was attached by some cords, etc. I've only got one image there for you to show, but that was really what we wanted to get on the second
Conning
visit.
tower, huh?
Well, she's the attack. She's a periscope,
Oh,
so
periscope, yes. Okay.
she's a periscope, and we wanted her because we wanted, and now we had the green light. Okay, the idea was to go and remove her and bring her up and confirm, because we could confirm which boat she was by the type of periscope she was. But
Okay.
unfortunately, we couldn't get back down because they'd thrown all the aluminium on top of her and the other bits.
Let me show you
So,
some other pictures. Tell me what we're looking at here.
right now, this what we're looking at here. You might find so. What we've done here, you can't see very clearly, but that is also another sonar image that we've got of another vessel. And we've just put on top the shape, because underneath that, if you go along, let's go to the next image. You might have it there. All right, there you go. Now, on the left, that is what we've got from a sonar image, okay? That is an image. Now, if you go back left again to the previous image, we've overlaid the type of submarine we believe she is, and it fits beautifully. Okay,
Yes.
so that's another one. You can just see a little bit. It's cropped where the conning tower would be in the middle. If you go back again, sorry, if you go and return, note the other image with
Okay,
the
let's go to the other one. Here we go.
right now. The image on the right, very grainy image. That was taken with Polaroid. It comes from a Polaroid. That
Amazing.
was taken of another coordinate that we've got. That is a true image. That is not AI or any of that stuff. We don't use AI. In fact, I despise AI because nobody
Me
knows
too.
what's true anymore. Can't stand it. Can't stand it. But that image was taken by a Dutch sailor in the early 80s.
You're back.
Um, yeah, and we enhanced it. When I say enhanced it, we recontrasted it. It's been analyzed for the shadows and everything. Now, she is in a very difficult position. A scuttled U-boat, obviously, as you can see. She's like 82 meters depth. Now, when you get to 82 meters, we need a decompression chamber. And we're talking about a whole new budget than what
Look
we
at
did in
those
Neckarchuk.
fins on it.
Yeah, I
There's
know.
another name for it, but yeah.
Now, you
Look
see,
there.
there's a thing on it that says highly confidential, not for reproduction. I held on to that for a long time and I never produced it because we were doing other things. But I think it's time that that goes out because we're not imagining this stuff. And as I say, that
Now,
was from a Dutch guy who took that with Polaroid.
now I happen to have taken my first trip back to America since coming to Bali in 2016 in 2024.
Yeah.
Hard to believe it's been 2 years ago. And I was over there and I went up to the Borders bookstore, something like that, to get some reading material, and I come across a Nexus magazine. And if you remember, Lawrence, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I said, they've got an article in here about expedition set to explore secret U-boat wreck. And so I sent a copy to Lawrence from a hotel there in Las Vegas. So were there
What
multiple?
was that about? I'll tell you what that was about. This sort of stuff is never straightforward, and unfortunately, finding wrecks and stuff like that, it attracts all types of people. And
Yes.
unfortunately, one of the first um, expedition organizer was not the person that we should really have had involved in an expedition, and that's why I took over. There were legal things involved because that person wasn't doing things in a scrupulous manner. So we
Okay.
separated ourselves. And that person went AWOL. He went
Okay.
AWOL.
Got it.
He went and started publishing stuff, but then he quietened down when I got my attorneys on him.
Now,
And it's not about monopoly. It's about there is so much criticism with people like Abel. For example, I told you the director of the Simon Wiesenthal Center said, no, I'm not getting involved in this submarine because Abel Basti talks about Hitler, and he's been told he's not allowed to talk about the survival of Hitler. It's no go area. And that's when I said, no, we're not talking about Hitler. We're talking about submarine. You need to come. This is real. Let's do it. But because of that, you have to be so careful. I think I told you the other day when we were
yes.
talking about Luger 45.
Yes.
I'm doing this investigation for Juan Pablo Rupel, who's the owner of the 45 Luger Parabellum and number 5. And I said to him, although I believe him, I need documents. Give me the documents. We need to double check because credibility is very important. You do one silly move out there and publish stuff that is ridiculous, you lose all credibility. You lose any opportunity of financing because this is supposed to be serious. It is serious research.
Yes.
And there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there. Listen, I've been accused of being a conspiracy theorist since 9/11. Okay. Um, out there, like I was a bit because I said certain things at the time many years ago, which have proven to be true, me and another
Yes.
journalist. So we have to be very careful because, people say, oh, this is all rubbish. So there you go.
Well, there
That thing you
are.
found in the magazine was an AWOL project.
Okay. And it's important to understand that there are still forces at work that will do everything they can to try to suppress this information from coming out. It's just like, communist China has their bots out there and their people, which, will be operative out there on Instagram and these other platforms, to put negative responses up to information. throw you under the bus, if you will. And again, there are people that are paid to make you look like a kook because they do not want the truth to come out. And you have to ask yourself, why? After all this time? That's a good question we need the answer for. Who is the enemy now? The enemy is you and I. That's the whole purpose for AI, total surveillance system. It's for total control. The government wants to know what you're doing, what you're talking about, who you're talking about it with, what you're writing about, where you're spending your money, what you're searching about. That's why all these data centers are popping up, and that's another program, Operation Stargate. Sadly, the very man that I've supported 3 times brought us Operation Warp Speed, and now he said Operation Stargate. I'm going to stop right there because I would vote for Trump again, but I do not support this push of AI. It's going for our jugular and our freedom.
Well, it's really bad. I worked for a while with Dr. Carol Rosin. She's a good friend of mine. She's getting a bit older now, and she worked for 45 years to push forward a space treaty to stop the weaponization of space. And I worked with her on that as her executive assistant, and for about 8 years. And we were told that if we get 13 leaders that sign that, it would come into law. Nobody would sign it. Now it's too late because platforms
rainbow weapons
in outer space. Yeah,
nukes
platforms
in space.
Yeah, no space. Space has been weaponized, and space should be a free for all, a healthy place where people go, and also interplanetary relations without going into that.
Let me tell you a true story. A number of years ago, maybe in 2 decades ago, William Shatner was hired to do the voiceover for these documentaries on the atomic and nuclear testing programs. Yes. And it's a pretty good series. It covers everything from the beginning to the end. One of the last ones they did in this series was called Rainbow Weapons. Nukes in space. And it was talking about even some nuclear testing that was done in space. And the inference was that on some of these classified missions, we've actually put weapons, nukes, up in space. And the theory is maybe with a satellite spinning around, as fast as they go, you could drop a bomb on your enemy quicker than if you just shot it from America. And or, of course, they're looking for ways to take out, other nations' satellites, their spy satellites, And it's believed that some have even already done that. They've steered satellites into other satellites and, detonated munitions, just taking them out. I'm not surprised by it. But I was just to make a long story longer, I was a gun dealer for many years under the name of OMEGAMAN weaponry. I did it as a hobby. When I was 5 years old, my father gave me a BB gun. Okay? And I'm living in a country now where I can't even get a BB gun. It's a joke. You got to have a permit for it. It's crazy. You better thank God for your Second Amendment. Yeah. No, listen. You can't. You got to have a license to get a pellet gun. So I'm having to look for other ways to protect myself. I'm actually enrolling in a Screama classes Friday and learn how to do some stick fighting. Remind me to tell you what happened about 3 a.m. this morning. Okay. But that's another story. So I knew about this documentary, and I was just interested in nukes in space. So I've got this gun store, and I had all kinds of people that would come in and buy, law enforcement guys. And one guy was this retired colonel who had worked in the Air Force. And he bought a few guns, and, I had this store open for a few years, and then I closed it down. And one day I'm down in the post office. This is up in Gainesville, Georgia, right down from where the old store was, which later we started OMEGAMAN Radio back in the same location, 2010. And so I was up there dropping some mail off, and I ran into the colonel. And he recognized me because he had been a customer, and I just dropped it on him. I said, hey, I was watching this documentary. You were in the Air Force. What do you think about nuclear weapons in space floating around? And it was like, I just caught him off guard. He almost turned white as a sheet. He mumbled something, and then he left promptly. I'm like, what did I spook him about? And
Mm.
I have an idea that he knew exactly what I was talking about. Maybe he'd been
Of
involved
course
in it. I
it
don't
is.
know.
No, it's been
High
going on
enough.
for a long time, and there is an arms race for space, but we've lost it now. It's done.
He got the hell out of there, and I didn't see him again ever again. I just thought that was funny. But yeah, I mean, we've got that stuff up there. In fact, we've got platforms under the ocean. I was told many years ago by a
Mm.
CIA agent who was retired working as a security guard at the same post I was, making part time work. He said two will leave from Miami in a boat, one comes back. I said, what's that mean? He said, two leave and go out in the ocean, one comes back. Underwater
Yeah.
listening post. Underwater listening post. And now I just heard on the news the other day that the Chinese have already deployed AI super centers under the ocean to keep them cool. There's all kinds of rovers down there. There's all kinds of things going on under the water, and potentially even permanent manned stations. You know, you had Sea Lab before.
Well, you saw recently, didn't you see that congressional hearing when they did the thing about the UAPs, and they released some footage, some whistleblowers of all these craft uh,
Coming out of
underneath
the
the
ocean?
ocean. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
it's our
probably
craft,
tens of
folks.
them. Yeah.
They're massive ones that actually have nobody on board, and they carry nuclear payloads, and they just sit out there and troll until they're needed. But we're talking about real history that is still being covered up. How that German U-boats at the end of the war came, and not just onesie twosies. If I recall a previous program, is there evidence that might support the fact that there's not only one or two wrecks down there, but there may be as many as half a dozen U-boats
Oh, there are
scattered
more
down
than
there?
that. They're probably about 12, we calculate.
12.
But the thing is, yeah, but we've
Amazing.
got to get to them because even having the sonar images, we need to get down and do what we're supposed to do to get all the to prove it. Do you understand? And then once we've got enough, then we say to then we'll have enough to go back to the government and say you need to open an investigation again, just like what happened with the other one, so that it's documented because that wreck is now actually on the maritime wreck list. It's there, but they don't say what it was, but they've marked it because those wrecks have to be put onto a map.
Now, I've got
And
a
also,
couple other photos I want you to
yeah, okay,
describe
yes,
for us.
okay, right. That's a U-boat
Okay.
Type 7. So let's go back.
Okay, let me get back to
To,
the full-size U-boat. Okay, here we go.
right, okay, right. This shows you about the rudders. Now you can see the rudders there. Okay, this is a massive
Yes.
U-boat 7. So it's got these sort of the rudders, which are really fins that steer the boat. Now, if you go to the one with the bike on the now, look at the shape of that. Now,
Oh,
look at that. Now, that is much smaller. However, it's actually on a beach down in that area, down near Patagonia,
that
just
looks
sitting
like one
there.
of the rudders.
Exactly.
It could even be one of those fins that we were talking about that we saw on the side of the original. Now, I'm not a U-boat man, but I'm just
Well, you
comparing
can see the site. That's why
pictures.
the motorbike's on it, so it can show you the Abel's been down there and had a look at them and everything. So, and you can't move that. I mean, how much do you think that weighs? Look at the size of that, and it's
Is
solid.
that did someone retrieve that yet, or is it still sitting down there? You think on the beach?
It's still sitting there. Who's going to move it?
Oh my goodness! I wonder how much it weighs.
Exactly.
Tons. Okay,
So
now
that's another point. You have to think about finances. How much do you think it costs alone to get down there to get something to pick that up and put it on the back of some truck or something?
we would
You
need
know,
a
it's thousands and
flatbed
thousands just to do that.
that
Yeah?
wouldn't get stuck in the mud and the sand. You'd probably have to, yeah, you'd have to put a chain around it and then haul it off. But
Yeah.
imagine putting that in a museum. Now, you were kind enough to share a couple other photos. I think this is Abel Basti. By the way, I wanted to say about
Right.
Abel.
If you go here now, this is Abel. Abel's so busy. Now, this is one of these tin um, dinghies. Now, people say, "Oh no, the U-boats," because obviously, when these sailors came abroad and they brought stuff abroad and they dumped it. They scuttled the boats, but they have to get the crew off, right? So
Yes.
this boat, now, if you go back here, people say, "Oh, they never had metal boats." That now they did actually have inflatables, but they also had some metal boats. I didn't actually give you the best images here, but this is where they would fit inside. This is a Type 7C. It's a big boat, but that's where it would put in. That's the type of boat you see. And next to Abel is now he's found about 7 of these along the coast.
Oh my
You
goodness,
know,
you got to pick those
in
up,
the middle,
Abo.
in the middle of nowhere, the middle of nowhere. Look
Holy,
at the background.
holy cow! How did they get out there? That's a good question. Was there water there
Well,
before?
no, they got there. They were pulled up. The crew got off, left them there, abandoned them. Then they were picked up by jeeps and stuff. Because remember, they had to
Oh,
be going hiding. Whatever they were offloading was trafficked. So they're not going to do it in a
amazing.
town. So these boats, these small little boats, we've got some better images. I'm so sorry, I didn't think to send you the other ones because I didn't think
Lawrence,
we'd get. Yeah,
Argentina is such a vast place. If you wanted to drive from the tip to the top, what is it, about 2,000 miles or something?
I think
Or
it's a bit more
longer?
than that. I think it's more than that. Let's work it out. How long is it? Let's do a Google. It's big. It's massive. It's massive. I mean, if you think you've got every type of klima here, you've got Antarctica, you've got
Yes.
jungle, you've got deserts, you've got salt flats. I mean, you've got everything here. It's massive. It's
Amazing.
enormous. But anyway, that's where
That
we
is
are.
amazing.
There are
So,
so confirmation. They are here. U-boats are here. Germans were coming down here. They were bringing stuff. They were offloading heavy things. It actually says in that report, the interrogation report, that they were treasures. He uses the word crates and crates of precious valuables, treasures, and other things.
speaking of
Um,
reports, our next show, let's defer the Mount Batten report to the next show because I want you to have time to go into that and not be rushed tonight. This show tonight is about the search for the World War II U boats. There could be as many as 12. Who knows, maybe more scattered
probably
along
more,
the
maybe
ocean.
more, maybe more.
They
Yeah.
have found them, folks. Why is the government covering them up? Now, just to kind of tie up some loose ends. Millet, is that the name of the gentleman there? The president,
Yeah, Xavier,
new president of
Xavier
Argentina?
Millet. Yeah.
With him being on board, has it made it any easier for you to get access to some of this information that before you might have been thwarted?
No.
That's sad. Well, I guess I shouldn't expect too much. He was supposed to be the Argentine Trump, and we haven't got much out of Trump either
He
as it
is,
relates to
but he
Epstein.
is. He's gate kept, unfortunately. And his
Oh,
sister, who used to be a pie maker before he became the president, she is now the executive in charge, and everybody calls her the boss.
speaking of cover up, wasn't there a massive treasure trove of Nazi memorabilia and artifacts that
Yeah,
the police
about
took
2018. Yeah, right. That
and
was there was. Well, this is it's very
handed over?
difficult
But
because it was
go ahead.
confiscated, and he had. You talk about the chap with the antique shop in 2018. He had it behind a secret wall, all those
Yes.
artifacts.
Have you gotten
Okay,
access to that yet?
yes, but this is what I say politically. This is the problem. Now you should be allowed to collect. Those things are not stolen. And as much as people don't like the idea that, like, for example, the Aguila off of the Graf Spee ship, beautiful eagle, most beautiful eagle that came off the Graf Spee. And I know that I'm going to go back to the point about the antiques, how this works. Now, the guy that actually paid for the salvaging, he spent about $2.3 million. I think it was about 2014. And I was in touch with him. He's a Uruguayan impresario, and I contacted him and asked him about wanting, could I come and film? He'd extracted it, and it was in a warehouse. And at the beginning it was all okay. There was a lot of legal stuff going on, but technically he was entitled. When you've got treasure, there you got it. There it is. Okay, well done. Okay, now yeah, she's got a the Nazi symbol on, but the eagle is so important. Now let's remember, and people forget this: the Graf Spee, her captain Hans Langsdorff, he was a really brave man, and you have to understand that between naval men, Air Force men, it's irrelevant. They respected each other because they weren't in the camps killing children. These were trained professionals. They weren't like the Nazis that are doing wicked things. So what happened when in 1939 the Graf Spee she was injured. She pulled into Montevideo. The captain realized that there were British ships outside. There was no way that they could win. So what he did, rather than put her in battle and have lots of young sailors' lives taken, he abandoned ship. He scuttled her in the River Plate, which is they call it a river. It's like a sea between Uruguay and Argentina. I've crossed it several times. And she was scuttled and she went down to the ocean. So, and 3 days later, or 2.5 days later, the honourable that he did, because he abandoned his ship, but to save lives, he put his dress uniform on and he blew his brains out in his hotel room. That's what an honourable man he was. And every December, the date of his death, Brits and Germans go to do a ceremony and go and honour him and go to his grave. You know, Royal Naval captains and Argentine captains and German representatives, they all get together and they honor that man because that man was honorable. What he did, he saved lives. There was no way out. There was no way out. So he scuttled her. But because he scuttled the most beautiful ship of the Kriegsmarine, and he did that, he abandoned her, he did that. So the story behind her is a story of heroism, and talks about really getting back to the brass tacks of war at the end of the day. Remember the famous, was it in the First World War, where it was Christmas and the Jerrys came out and the Brits came out and they played football on Christmas or New Year's Eve? Remember that story?
No, I'm new to all this. This is interesting history I'm
Right.
learning.
If you Google that, if you look about famous football, let's have a look. Anyway, people can go and look for it. I can't remember. And what they did, they had a truce and they sort of started playing. It was Christmas time and they were playing songs. The Germans were playing songs. They waved a flag to each other and they got out the trenches and they played football together, laughing, playing, sportsmen. And then when the game was finished, they went back to their trenches and they had to go and shoot each other. Right? So that's what it's about. And it's about, knowing at the end of the day, they are just tools for whatever's going on. So that beautiful Aguila was salvaged by this chap, and he spent a lot of money. So he should technically have been able to do what he wanted with that.
Right.
No, it was confiscated because of lobbying by Jewish organizations that he was not allowed to have the eagle. So she's been put in a big warehouse, and one big impresario said he wants to pay to be able to blow it up. And the Jewish organizations want to put it in a Holocaust museum. And the guy who salvaged it wants to be given his money back for bringing it up. And at the moment, she is with a 24/7 armed guard in a big warehouse in Montevideo, stuck there. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story, so what use is that? So going back to the chap in Buenos Aires in 2018, he was collecting stuff. Now, the Germans not only collected things, but they were really into things like mummies. You know that Hitler, if you look at the movie, what was the film? Was it Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yes.
And you see at the beginning, all the German soldiers are digging, looking for the Ark of the Covenant because, Hitler was obsessed with the Knights Templar and the Arks of the Covenant. You know that. I mean, he was out there getting his soldiers digging. That's true. So,
Claimed to have found the spear of destiny, the one said to have pierced the side of Christ, and whoever had control of that would win a war, and so he sent people into Bavaria, where it was in a museum, to take it.
Oh wow,
Uh,
yeah, makes
and they had it for a while, but at the end of the war, he lost control of it, and it went over to Patton. That's a whole story in and of itself, the Spear of Destiny. So they were looking for the Ark of the Covenant, anything, any holy relics that they might think were supercharged with
That's right.
supernatural
So the
power.
Germans would collect also a lot of, it's illegal now, mummified objects from Egypt, ancient Egypt, you know.
Yes.
Um, and this chap, so the Germans collected them. So this chap in Buenos Aires had an amazing collection, and within the collection of Nazi objects, but I'm talking objects like a bust of Adolf Hitler that weighs probably, I don't know, 100 kilos. Now, number one, these are not reproductions. It's not going to fit in a handbag or a briefcase. How did it get here? Mengele came over with a briefcase, etc., and he came on a ship. But you're not going to be carrying that sort of stuff in your luggage because you're using false documents. And if you have a bust of Adolf Hitler that's marble, it's going to pretty much give you away, right? At the end of the war. So I believe that stuff came, a lot of it came over on submarines. So somebody went in there to buy something and they grassed him up. So he was raided and they found this secret wall at the back of his shop. And he had all this stuff that he was, on the markets of people that are interested in these artifacts and things. And so what happened? The fiscal came in. It was all confiscated. He legally owned it. It was lawfully his. But they confiscated it. Why? Because they were considered objects of hate. I'm sorry, I don't go along with that. I just find that ridiculous. You know, these are historic stuff. Um,
I agree with you.
and that was
They should not
confiscated.
be destroyed. They should not be hid in a locker secured with an armed guard. Either let the guy sell it or put it in a museum. But one person
No.
wanted to
So
take it
what
and melt
happened?
it down.
This guy was issued 2 years jail sentence for having these possessions that are objects of hate. Do you know where those objects of hate are today?
I know, but tell the people.
Right, they're in the Holocaust Museum of Buenos Aires. But the thing is, people pay tickets to go in and look at it. This is what I don't understand. You understand what I'm saying? So, listen, and
Yeah,
I'm not in any way anti-Semitic. I've got Jewish blood, but I do not like the
absolutely.
way I do not like the way that this is utilized as a cash cow. Because in my view, that's even more insulting to the people that died in the death camps. Don't make
Absolutely.
this. And unfortunately, that is what happened with the U-boat expedition, and that's why I pulled away
Now,
because the sponsors were wanting to do it for that.
knowing what you know about
Mm.
the multitude of U-boats that made it to Argentina, what do you think happened to the crews and their cargo?
Well, it's known that lots of the U-boats crews all came into Argentina, and they had families and everything. And for example, that guy, right, the Grafspee, it's different, but he escaped because when they were taken interned in Buenos Aires, let's talk about the Grafspee. They were interned and they put in this hotel, the Hotel de los Inmigrantes, it was called, in Buenos Aires. And they were given a pension and money and everything, but they were bored and they were due to be repatriated to Europe, back to internment camps until the end of the war. But a lot of them got bored and they escaped, and then they were moved somewhere else on the interior. And a lot of these guys were sucked into the intelligence network of Germany, of Nazi Germany, throughout the war. So a lot of them, and a lot of them were released. There was no big deal. They were just freed, and they married here and they had children. And that's one of the reasons, as I go back to the fact that when I first came here, my plan was to make a program about the children of Nazis, whether they came over here from, known escapees, but also crews and everything. So yeah,
Well,
there are
so
lots and lots of family. I mean, look at Rupel. Rupel's one of those families.
who is Rupel?
The guy who owns the 45 had it stolen by the
Oh,
police.
excuse me. Yes, Hans. Okay.
right? So there you go.
Oh,
So
oh, excuse me. Yes, yes. I didn't memorize the full name yet.
Rupert, you see,
That's a
these families, German, there
yes.
are loads of German. Look, they're not all
Oh, yeah.
criminals. We can't say that. And as I said, I don't believe in the sins of the father, the witch
Oh no.
hunting. This is so
No.
wrong.
Listen, we can't be blamed for our parents or what they were involved in, good or bad. And speaking of Rupel and the story of the Luger, if you missed that, you need to go back to the archive and check it out. An amazing discovery, and there's more to come out as
Yes,
time
in the next months, hopefully.
time progresses, and more to the whole story. I sure hope that y'all are able to locate what was in that transcript, the films and the photographs. Oh, what stories that could tell if that wasn't destroyed or
Well, we're
permanently hid by
working on
whoever's
it at
got
the
it.
moment. Let's see. And this is also why they're getting very nervous about the submarines, because more and more and more pieces of the puzzle are being found. And
Yes,
investigators like myself and my colleagues, we're bringing together, and technology is getting better, that we can access documents that we couldn't access before. The big advantage, I have to say, which is a bit of a shame to say it, but it's much easier to get access to stuff down here. It's You understand, a
Oh,
lot
oh yes,
easier.
oh yeah, absolutely, and that's why you got to be where you're at, boots on the
Exactly.
ground. And I want to say this: I believe this is the bottom line. If the full truth comes out, it's going to be very clear that America and the UK worked heavily with the Germans at the end of the war and absorbed many of them into their programs. We know about Operation Paperclip, NASA, intelligence. There were deals cut by the British and the Americans with key members of the Third Reich, and I think it's very possible that Hitler did in fact escape. You mentioned there has been a person who has purchased and totally restored the home down there at Bariloche and Alco, which is pretty amazing.
Yep.
And of course, in your own research, you were focusing on Martin Bormann and Gestapo Mueller. Your research has shown they not only survived but thrived for a time, more so Gestapo Mueller than Mengele. You know, he dies of stomach cancer. The report is in the 50s, and Mengele went down and tried to help him, but it was nothing he could do. These people
Well,
are
I think
just a
he went
few
up. I think Bormann left here and he met Mengele in Paraguay, and
in
he stayed
Paraguay.
with him
And
for a while in Paraguay. And that's why
Hohenau,
he
you
was
think?
buried.
Yes. He probably died out there at that farmhouse in Hohenau, that area.
Itau, a place called
I-
Itau.
Itau. So
Yeah.
that's amazing. One of these days, I'd like to get over there and join Harry and meet you, and you take us over to some of those graves and some of those houses. Folks, it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, these people lived, they had children, they had grandchildren, and their grandchildren, great grandchildren. Multiple generations. Some of them stayed, and then I have a theory, Lawrence, that some didn't like living over there in South America, and they just doubled back in the 70s and merged back into Germany. What do you think about that?
Well, I heard that, I think I told you, I believe that we've tracked down Heinrich Müller here.
Yes,
And when I spoke to people that knew him very well, of course, they don't know what I'm doing. I present myself in a different way when I'm trying to get information. Not to be dishonest, but that's how it is, unfortunately.
sure.
Um, and they told me that he did actually take a trip to Europe and to the USA in the last 15 years of his life.
They get homesick.
Yeah,
They
he
want to
had
go
gone.
back.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Everybody goes
yeah,
back at some point, but doesn't mean you have to stay.
yeah.
Will you
So,
ever go back and visit Britain again? I don't know that I'd want to live there with the Muslims that have taken over the country, though. And I don't think
do you
I'd
know,
want to go
I'm
back and live in
real.
America right now.
I'm a Brit through and through. My father's a Scot. My mother's from one of the oldest English families. I am
Oh,
so British, but I am just so sick to my stomach what's going on.
absolutely.
And with Starmer, as you know, is just being told what to do. He's just part of a big agenda. I have to be really honest with you. I'm feeling really, really down about it all at the moment. I'm even down about even my research and everything because, you get to the point. I was always so excited by it. There are still things I'm very excited about. I'm going to get that Luger. I'm telling you
Oh,
now.
you got to finish that one.
We're going to get that. We're going to get that. And other things. But it's like, what is the point? I've got to the point now, even the thing with Diana, because, I did the Diana thing many, many years ago. And it's like, we can't take these people on. We can't take them on. Everywhere you go, you can't talk about the only solution. It's a solution that civilians have to get together. I was so disappointed. I was so happy about Trump coming in. Why? And I really believe that because I come from a real naval family,
Oh, yes.
and I really hoped that there was some good guys still in there in the industrial military complex that really were going to go up against George Soros, because at the end of the day, he's the guy that's financing
Right?
most of it, right?
Right? He needs to go to jail first.
Well, more than that, doesn't he?
Yes. They need
He's
to
still
take
there,
him
right?
out
And
like Saddam
yeah,
Hussein by hanging.
yeah. But remember,
Crimes against humanity.
Sam was working for, the three-letter agencies. Remember, he was put in there. He was put in there for a reason.
I'm going to say something, and again, I state the fact again. I voted for Trump 2 out of 3 times. The third time I could not legally vote as I didn't have a driver's license. I was disqualified. I've been gone for so long. I've been here 10 years abroad. But as much
Yeah, I
as
know.
I believed in Trump, and I would vote for him again, more so than to have that other guy in there, or that other gal in that case, he's betrayed us. And I
Yes,
think that at the end of the day, he's about himself and about his friends. And I'm going to say again, nobody's been brought to justice over COVID-19. Fauci is still out there, a free man.
unbelievable. Bill Gates and Fauci
Bill
should be
Gates,
backed up by now.
absolutely, and all the others
But
that
can I just
murdered.
say,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt you.
yes,
And I
ma'am.
interrupt, I don't mean to do it, but it's
It's okay.
important to say, I completely hear you on Trump. But when you say he's betrayed us, we need to ask why. Trump is a family man deep down at the core.
Yes,
They get this idea that when I'm POTUS, I will have power. For example, these guys that in Congress, they have to go into a skiff to get information where they're financing black projects, and they need to get the information, and they're not being given information. Trump thought he could go in there and access the Kennedy files. He's been stopped from that. He's been blocked from various things that he thought he could access.
yeah, but
And
why doesn't he
yeah,
push on through? Are you going to tell me that they can stop
because
the?
he's got a family, that's why.
Oh,
Because
so
at the end of the day,
he's afraid.
if they say to you, Shannon, okay, Shannon, are you going to publish that, or
Hmm.
do you want to keep your children?
Well, you got a point. He has a big family, and listen, I believe he should be able to make money off anything he can and get back the money that they stole from him. And this guy was put through more than anybody. We all know this, and
Yeah.
he's a fighter. But at the end of the day, either he's naive or he's compromised because he's
Oh,
making
he's
some stupid
totally
things.
compromised because, of course.
I mean, okay, since our last program, and I do want to ask you about this before I forget. I just heard this yesterday. The founder of Palantir and one of the founders of PayPal, Peter Thiel,
Yeah.
grabbed up his family and they moved to Argentina. Have you heard about this story? What's going on with that? You know anything about it?
Well, yeah, it's all about what's going on, isn't it? You know that years and years ago, Benetton, Obama, loads of them bought land down here.
Really?
Yeah.
Now,
Since
I
since
haven't
the
heard
90s.
the meetings, but Peter Thiel was doing some seminars on the Antichrist. And people say, what is he talking about? Why that subject? Does he believe the Bible? But I just heard some people are saying he fled to Argentina, insinuating that there was something he'd done wrong. I don't know the story, but that's a pretty big deal for one of the billionaires, the elite, to go to Argentina. One said he's basically given up on America because he believes it's going to not go well with the AI. I don't know. That's the only information I could get. I wanted to say this. I'm reading off my own Facebook page. The end game for AI is total surveillance. It's predatory and serially rapes your devices like your smartphones or your computers and traffics you and your data. Don't be a victim. I'm not happy with what's going on. So back to Trump, Lawrence. Do you remember first term? He welcomes in Sam Altman and also Larry Ellison of Oracle. Sam Altman, is that ChatGPT, one of those companies? And he announces that them and also Apple and other groups are going to invest maybe $500 billion into these AI supercenters that incidentally they were already building. But he's moved away all the restrictions, and they don't have to comply with EPA codes and all that stuff. Green light, carte blanche to build. And people are getting pissed off in America because they're coming in these supercenters and they're buying up land maybe next to your farm or your house. And people are saying, hey, listen, we can't.
It's quite away from me.
Well, so and I'm talking in America. I'm talking
Sorry.
The AI supercenters are sprouting up all over America, and people are complaining. They said, we can't sleep. The noise that we're hearing from the buzz of these machines. Yeah, so back in 2017, I dipped my toe into the world of cryptocurrency mining. Oh. And I had 6 rigs, each with about 6 GPU cards, and these things are very noisy.
Well, you mean mining?
Mining. Yes, I was a miner. Yes. And then at some point, I got an ASIC miner, and when you fire that thing up, it's like a jet engine. Just one. They're very noisy. Now imagine thousands of these server rooms, warehouse size. These things are loud. They use up a lot of electricity, water, and people are complaining. And it's like eminent domain. These things are coming in. They're popping up everywhere. Why do you need all these supercenters? And then the argument is, well, if America doesn't do it, it's like the new space race. China, Russia's going to do it, and we're going to be left behind. But I think it's more than that. It's total surveillance, and that's not the scope of this program. But the fact is, Trump goes in there. He's so happy. He thinks he's doing a good thing, I guess. And he says, I want to announce this partnership. They called it Operation Stargate. You remember Operation Warp Speed? Let's just green light all the vaccines. Fauci became his new mouthpiece. The monster who brought us AZT. And now remdesivir. If you got on remdesivir, you usually died. It caused organ failure. That or the ventilators usually killed you.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend that's very ill from that. She was given to me years ago, yeah.
This is Trump's new warp speed. I'm not happy about it. I'm not happy about some of the other things that they're doing also. And I'm not happy that he says every day we're attacking Iran. Now we're not. We're going to nuke you back to the Stone Age.
That's a bloody mess, isn't it? I mean, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. By not opening up the canal, the problem we're going to have now, and remember, he took Venezuela, right?
Yes.
And Venezuela, as we know, has got lots of energy, right? Yes. Resources. And everybody knows we're heading for a major, if that doesn't open up that canal, we're all going to be having another shutdown, but we're going to have no energy.
Now, does Argentina rely on any of this stuff from the Strait of Hormuz? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't know. I do know that they were very dependent before on stuff coming from Brazil, but that's not.
Have you been impacted, though, locally? Let's say, do you cook with propane like we do here? What do you use for stoves? Propane tanks?
No, I don't. It's all piped in from gas.
Oh, okay. So you're actually a little bit more civilized than where I'm at. Over here and in a lot of Central America, they would use propane tanks, and they'll last about 6 weeks. Just get another one and plug it in.
Yeah, Mexico, but it's better to have that because then you can stash them up in your barn, can't you?
Well, then that's true. That's exactly right. And places like the Philippines, I mean, they're hitting critical now. There's a shortage of propane, everything. And there's going to be riots before long or blackouts.
And everybody's carrying on as normal and they don't realize what's coming.
We're in some serious trouble. Apparently, America is not equipped to fight the drones. I think it was a wake-up call. You can make a drone for $1,000.
That's sort of these drones now that go around. When I was watching some footage, I think it was a year or so ago, with the situation between Russia and the Ukraine, and seeing these soldiers now. This is my son. I told you he wanted to go into the military. I said, "You're not going in." He said,
Oh,
"I'm an adult." I said, "Over my dead body, you're not going in the military." Ah, your father. I said, "It was different then. We had conventional weapons and nuclear weapon, big things. But now these young lads are going out in the field. They don't stand a chance.
not with drones. You're exactly right. It's a whole new
It's
warfare.
done. It's done. A lad that goes into the army now, and you go to the front, forget it. And I said, I'm not. I don't want to see my son come back in a box. Not happening.
You
And you're
see the
not doing it
footage
now. Yeah,
of the
yeah,
drones with a hand
yeah.
grenade and it goes right over the foxhole and drops on their head?
No, it's horrible, and it follows them around. You can see this Russian lad running. It's horrific.
You
I know
can't
they say,
fight the
"Oh, well,
drones.
what's
Like,
different being shot?" But at least it's a little bit fairer, you know. But you
look,
can't take them on.
the drone swarms, they can take out a tank, they can take out an aircraft carrier. How are you going to stop them? And you know, $1,000 a piece, and you have to expend $1 million missile. That's why many of these Arab countries, they shot their load in the first couple hours. They had nothing left. They didn't think they would be encountering this. And you know, we got 10, 20, 30 missiles. We're going to be good to go. Not against a drone that even costs $5,000 put up against $1 million missile or 100,000 missile. I mean, they can bankrupt you very quickly. I'm just surprised that America got caught with their pants down. We've had a couple years to see what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. I mean, I don't understand it, but and still I don't know why we can't take out Karg Island, but some people keep telling me there's 50,000 of these little fast boats. Now, I did hear another guy on a YouTube channel. He said, you don't understand the makeup of Iran. He said 51% of it is Persian. The other 49 are other ethnic groups, and the government has the equivalent of, let's say, 300,000 police officers, which are used to keep the other 49% of the population under control. And if you take out the Ayatollah, you've got an endless supply that will just come in and replace him. And they're spread out over this vast desert wilderness. I don't know how you take them out, but we're in a mess now. I don't think we should not have taken action.
It's a mess everywhere.
It's everywhere.
And it's very depressing.
Now, I want to ask you just one or two more bonus questions. With Milei over there, has anything with the economy in Argentina improved? I know he came in there and fired a lot of these bureaucrats. And
that's right. That's completely out of my field. I'm not qualified to make any.
Well, in other words, just day to day, has the prices?
It's hell. It's an absolute no. It's hell. It's a nightmare.
Okay.
It's a nightmare, and also the energy bills as well are ridiculous now. He put an increase. I think I told you when he came in. He put the gas up by Kirchner, because they were always like classic communists.
Yes.
They think that the money it just goes on tap and they just give it away. And there were lots of good subsidies, and unfortunately they gave too many lazy people too many plans and benefits that they didn't need to work. Not people like me, of course. You wouldn't get a plan, but the real lazy bums, the more kids they have, and they just give them more things. And the gas, there were lots of subsidies, gas, electric, and energy, fine, if you deserved it. But what he did, Millet, in the middle of the winter when he came in, first of all, they said, don't worry, the gas prices. He put the gas up 400% in the middle of the winter.
What?
400%. The gas.
Oh, my goodness. Good grief.
It's just absolute madness. It's madness. I'm sitting here literally in a sleeping bag now and a hot water bottle because I can't afford to heat the house.
Oh, good Lord.
So that's how it is here in this country. So it's a real mess. And he's carrying on. And Millet is very disappointing because I, like you with Trump, and I was pro-Trump, and I still am pro-Trump because I think it's better him than anyone else.
Well, that's where I'm at. And if he didn't do it, somebody else would do it. I'm just sad. I thought it'd been better.
It's just a mess. It's almost like, and have you not noticed how fast everything's really moved in the last 8-9 years? It's gone really fast since this whole COVID rubbish. And remember, they locked us all up.
Yes.
So they could do stuff. I noticed something here when we were all on shutdown here.
Tell me.
Oh my God, the traffic of light aircraft going over back and forth and back.
Really?
And Yeah, narcotics, weapons, all sorts of stuff. Perfect.
Uh-oh.
The government was saying, "Oh, look, they're all locked down, and we can do what we want." And that's what lots of people did there. And they also put up all the 5G towers, didn't they, when you were all locked up in Europe?
Oh, that's right. Exactly right. I still haven't used 5G. I'm not turning on 5G.
No,
And I don't
and
know that I can protect me
you
and my
haven't had,
family.
you haven't had the nasty jab either.
Nope. Listen, all my children, organic and me too.
Yeah, snap.
I
We're
had
the
a
same.
son in the military at the time. I was married when I was 19. So I
Yeah.
had a couple in my youth. But my son happened to be in the military during COVID, stationed at, of all hellholes, Guantanamo Bay, Lawrence.
Oh no.
Yeah. Now he didn't work over at Camp X-Ray. He was basically Master of Arms, which is basically a security guard. And he
Mm.
was over there, and it came down under Operation Warp Speed. Everybody's got to get the jab if you work for the military or the government, or you lose your job, or if you're in the military, you might get a court martial. But you could apply for a waiver. So I called my son Heston. I named him after my favorite actor, Charlton Heston. And I said to him, I said, son, you don't take that. Best case scenario, it could kill you. Worst case scenario, it could change your DNA. Do not
Mm.
take it. I said, if they give you a court martial and you got to go to Leavenworth, you get an Article 15, you'll be doing the right thing. And I will respect your decision that you had to go to jail. And I'll back you up on that, but don't take it. But try and get the waiver. And I told him I gave him some ammunition to use in his letter for waiver, because there was some proof that they were using aborted fetal cells in the vaccine. And I said, I want you to write a letter and basically say, you do not want to take it for religious reasons.
Mm.
And him and his roommate put in the letter, he said, you cannot not believe how many interviews I had to go to. I had to meet with like 3 people. They all asked me the same questions. Why are you applying for a waiver? Why won't you take the vaccine? And he said, for religious reasons, can't do it. And, it was a miracle of God. He got out, honorable discharge, and they let
Oh
him
wow.
finish out his term there. Typically, you've got to do at least one tour on a boat if you've been on land before they let you out, but he would have had to re-up, and they can't force you to do that, so they just let him finish his time on Guantanamo Bay, and he got out. Stuck there the whole time. But at least he didn't get stuck in the arm.
Trump has now said that everybody that was eliminated because of the vaccine and all that time that they're going to be reimbursed. Isn't that correct?
I had heard that they would give you an opportunity to be reinstated if you want to come back in the
That's
military in
right.
terms of
And the ones that were sent without pay and kicked out, he said he's reimbursing that.
I'd heard that
Am
he
I,
was going to do it. I don't know if he went through with it. In the case of my
yeah.
son, they just let him finish his term early, and he was glad to get out after being on that
Oh, really?
hellhole. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's nothing to do there. You're stuck the whole time, except maybe go down the beach occasionally. But at any rate, let's see what Trump does. But sadly, he talks the talk, and at the end of the day, we still haven't gotten any full disclosure on Epstein Island. Not one of them went to jail except that one lady. That worked for him.
Oh,
I
yes.
believe
Yeah. Yeah. Ghislaine
uh,
Maxwell.
Jelaine. She's the only one that's in jail, as far as I know.
Yeah.
And I got something to say too. Dan Bongino. I don't think he could cut the mustard. He quit.
Do you know, it's funny you say that as well. And he disappointed me because he was all mouth before. And
Right?
then I liked, then he got a little bit too cocky. And when he went in as the assistant, it was director of FBI, no? Was it FBI? What was it?
Assistant director. Yeah, number 2 man.
That's right, assistant director. And I liked him. And then but then again, I think he pulled out because he didn't like what was going on in there.
Well, yes, but why didn't he whistleblow? Well, because if he had whistleblowed, he probably wouldn't be able to go back into private sector and make money again. He said, well, my wife and I have just been apart too long. Well, move her to D.C., for goodness sakes. Don't use that. But, he saw stuff there, and he covered stuff
Of course
up.
he did. Of course he did.
On that
And
interview, nothing to see here. Do you remember that interview with him and the director? Oh, there's nothing here. Epstein
yeah,
just whacked himself. We saw the foot. Listen,
that was
bullshit.
unbelievable. It was so obvious. Anybody
Bullcrap.
could tell that he was murdered.
You
And the
saved me from.
camera, the whole thing. I mean, the whole thing. It was just, and this is what's so frustrating. They're not even careful about what they do anymore. They literally take the pee out of everybody. And they think everybody's so stupid, but they don't even care anymore. And this is what's going on in the UK. Look what's going on with Starmer, the two-tier Starmer, all the stuff. Look at that lad the other day, stabbed. That lad
Oh yeah.
stabbed
Oh yeah. You
by
sent me
that
that.
bloody
That's
guy with
horrible.
a with some, what was it? Some, not a samurai knife. What was it? It was some.
Stabbed in the with a big knife,
Yeah,
stabbed in the
yeah,
neck and in the
yeah.
back and the
And the
legs.
and the police came and they cuffed this lad and he died, bled to death. And he was saying, I don't feel well. They took him and interrogated him because the other guy said, oh, he racially abused me or something. And it was the other one. And now, do you think Starmer has mentioned about Eid? What was it? Eid? What do they call it? The Muslim festival or something? But he hasn't mentioned. Well, he hadn't until yesterday, when the last I checked, he hadn't mentioned how shocking about the death of this lad because they don't want to talk about it.
Well, what about the young girl over there that got raped? Was it there in
Oh,
Sweden?
there are loads of them. Are you kidding me? The
This may have
one.
been Sweden. There was another story over there. She gets raped by a Muslim dude. Or excuse me, let me back up here. By an Ethiopian dude. I'm going to assume he's Muslim, but I don't know. And they arrested him. They know he raped her, but they let him go because the rape was not extreme enough. It didn't last that long. He
Oh,
rapes her and
yes.
he did a quickie,
Yeah.
and because it was a quickie rape, she was raped nonetheless. Oh, it wasn't violent rape, so he doesn't meet the measure to go to jail.
No, no, it's scary what's going on.
What
And
the hell is going on here?
yeah, what's the name of the chap that I always forget his name. Tim Burchett?
Tell me.
Tim Burchett, because this is probably a subject you don't like to talk about and all your Christian listeners, because you're all a little bit nervous when you talk about extraterrestrial beings. I don't know why. But that's my view.
What do you
But
think? What do you think they are? Do you think they're
of course
space
they
brothers
are.
on another planet?
You think we're the only planet in the billions and billions and billions of planets and universes that have life on? Is that what you think?
No, I actually think people have seen things, but I
I've
just
seen.
think
I've
what they
actually.
are
I've
is
seen things. I've seen things,
I
and
think
it
that
trumps.
these are
Yeah.
supernatural beings, fallen angels, demons. You know, Satan can masquerade as an angel of light, whatever he wants to look like. They've seen something. They've been raped. There's loss of time. There's all types of crazy things going on. So I don't deny that.
But they don't have to be demons. Why do they have to be demons?
Well, I think they're probably some of that fallen angel crowd that came down and mated with women over in Genesis 6 and created the giants, the Nephilim.
Probably
We've got all these
yeah.
records of the ancient cultures saying, these beings came down. I believe they were fallen angels that came down over there and, with the Aztecs and as Horus with the Egyptians. No question about that. But on the flip side of it is there is that phenomena, no question. But then
Well, the
there's a
thing
story
is, yeah, go on.
that came out with this lady who did a deep dive on Area 51, and she interviewed a guy still alive, he's in his 90s, who worked over there at Area 51 and probably with some of those other organizations. And he said they took children who had Down syndrome, they did cosmetic surgery on them, and they made them look like aliens as a ruse for the Russians. I mean, they murdered them. They said we have some crash craft with alien bodies at Area 51. They had some bodies, all right. Apparently, some retarded children
I
that they
don't know
did
if that,
cosmetic surgery
I
on.
have to tell you, I really do believe
That's
there
horrible
are
if that's true.
craft that have been here, and there are extraterrestrial life that has been visiting here, because it's very arrogant for Earthlings to say, "Oh, we're the only biological entity functioning with a brain in the universe." I just don't believe that, and I'm sure there are demonic forces. That certainly, but we have to be. I think people are frightened to accept the fact that there are other life forms that are off planet that have been visiting here. They're much more advanced than us, and they've probably been here a long time. You only have to look and listen to things in the Bible about lights in the sky and chariots
Oh,
of
sure.
fire.
Sure.
It's
I
a
believe that.
physical things. However, I think what's going on now, Tim Burchett recently, I had a very, I'm not going to go onto it here, but a very, very scary experience when I was 14. I was with my family.
Really?
And yeah, it terrified me. And it was a contact. All my family were there. We were on a camping weekend. And now, it was years later that it dawned on me who my father was Royal Navy. And of course, Royal Navy submarines are intelligence. You know that because that's what they do. They
Yes.
spy. That's what submarines are for. So
Yes.
my father was working for naval intelligence. And then you heard about Majestic 12. You know about Majestic
Oh, yes.
12
Yes.
organization. At the time, I didn't know anything about anything like that. And when I had this experience, which was absolutely terrifying, I've never been so scared in my entire life. And my father and this thing, three of them were there outside the camper we were in, like an RV, looking
Whoa.
in the windows at night. And the dog didn't move. And my mother said to my father, William, there's something outside. Now, my father, my entire life, my father was the type, train, jump up, get outside and go and check it out, right?
Right.
And my father said, just go to sleep. It was the most peculiar response from my father.
Really?
Yeah, it was just very terrifying, the whole thing. And I didn't imagine it. Anyway, I'm not
Did
going to
you
go into
ask him? Did you ask him later on what he thought was out
it
there?
was very, very strange. And years later, I started to get a little bit obsessed about what happened to me. When it was light, I wasn't frightened anymore. And we found sort of trails outside, and my brother had seen things as well. And then I'm telling you the story now. I didn't plan to,
Well, I
but
want to
and I
hear
don't
it.
want to
Did you
bore
did
you.
you just hear
Okay, to
things,
talk
or
about this here because I don't know.
did you see any
Um,
eyeballs looking in at you like red eyes?
yes, I did.
Wow.
Yes.
I believe you.
And worse than that, they projected, but it wasn't like, and that was this was in 1970, 3, I think it was 1973. Okay. I was about 30 because I was born in 1960. I'm 65 now.
You're young enough to be my daughter. Wow.
There you go. Oh, really? I meant you to be my son, though. And
Where were you at
okay,
the
so
time? Was this in the
this was
UK?
outside of London because my parents had bought this house in the country, and
Oh,
they thought it was a good project that we would go and fix it at the weekends, and we'd stay by the river at night. And in this RV, it was a project for the summer. Some strange things happened to me when I look back in retrospect before that happened that night. And I remember, I'm not even going to go into it because it's just too creepy, but there were some very strange things that happened to me. I realized in retrospect of me going to meet somebody by the river, and I wasn't meeting anyone, but I remember feeling really, really happy that I was going to meet somebody.
was this something you dreamed at that point meeting, or do you remember actually meeting them?
No, this is in real life. No, I don't remember meeting anyone,
Oh,
but I remember, like when you're young and you're in love and you're going to meet somebody, that sort of butterflies and you're so happy.
yes, yes.
And I remember going down to the riverside in the days before this happened, and I knew I was going to meet somebody, but I don't remember meeting anybody. And I remember hearing voices in my head, and I'm not schizophrenic.
Are you aware of any occultic groups that may have been operating out there in the groves and the woods?
You see,
Like,
there you go. This is the point, and I respect your point, but why do you have to um,
well,
link
well,
it
don't.
to a cult?
Well, no, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying it was a cult, but I was just curious if this was an area like maybe where there
Oh,
was some
there's a cult all over
like
England.
like
England's
druids
full of
out there.
Yeah, of
Now,
course. Of
now,
course. But then again,
what
that's another thing. And I know being a Christian, all that sort of stuff.
what
And I
would you
understand.
say? What would you say if I told you that werewolves are real?
I'd believe you because I lived outside I went to university in Rome, remember, and I lived out in the province, and they called it
Well,
Lupo Monaro. And yeah, there is a place
loophole.
up there, Lupo Monaro. Yeah.
Well, okay,
And they do exist, the werewolves in that
okay. So
area.
American Werewolf in London. Okay.
Do you know, I didn't watch that.
Well,
Was that
it might be worth watching because I was told by a guy who I know very well, Bill Sneblin, who said not only are werewolves real, but he had seen them. And he told me stories of people that were pursued by them, including himself.
Yeah.
One showed up at his house. It's an amazing story. I know a couple people that have seen these, and now
I
I said,
absolutely, I believe
said,
you.
what are these? He told me these are people that are highly involved in Satanism, and there's two paths you can take. You can either be a werewolf or you can be a vampire. Now, my friend was a vampire. He would drink blood. He would lay in a coffin. True story. Very intelligent guy. His name is Dr. Bill Sneblin. But he said he knew of people that had went the other route, and he said, you don't want to even go through the rituals that it would take to become that. He didn't want to mention to me what you have to do. But he said they would transform. I said, well, what are these? He said, well, they're like the skinwalkers out there in the Navajo Nation. Those things are real too. People that transform into something superhuman, animal, under black magic power. And he said typically the werewolves are the bodyguards or the assassins for some of these groups. So I believe it. I believe
But
Bigfoot.
have you thought for a moment that I respect your views on that and demonic stuff? I do believe in demonic forces. Definitely there are dark forces. Absolutely. Just like there are good.
Sure.
But I think sometimes it's simplified with this sort of belief that everything like extraterrestrial demons and whatever. Now, what I'm concerned about of late
Tell me.
is that, I mean, I was frightened for many, many, many years. I was traumatized by what I saw, and I started to become obsessed with it. And I think it was 1976. We were living somewhere else in central London. My father was controller of the UJC Forces Club. And a friend of my mother had told a friend of hers about what had happened, what I'd seen. Now, at that time, that image with the big head and the eyes didn't exist. You didn't see it then in 1975, 76. Okay.
Yes.
And she told this friend of hers, and she told somebody else. Anyway, we received a phone call. And my mother took the call and she said, this gentleman wants to talk to you. And I always remember his name. His name was, because it always reminded me of Oliver North, of, the military guy, Oliver North, the American. And this guy was working for, I think it was Bufora, the British UFO Association or something. And he spoke to me on the phone. He was a leading ufologist at the time in England. I didn't know that. And he asked me the story. And I remember he called, and when I was telling him the story, I said, you don't believe me. You think I'm making this up. And he said, no, Lawrence, we know that we do believe what you're saying. So we want to bring you into our offices, and we want to use a forensic artist to draw what you saw. Okay. So, but he said, I'm going to talk to your mother because I was underage. You have to be 18. You have to get your parents' consent. And my father completely shut it down. And he said, it's enough now.
It sounds like they had reports before.
Right. Yeah.
And they were building files.
He asked me what it was like. I told him. And you feel stupid a couple of years later once it's passed, because you go, well, now it sounds really ridiculous. The sounds, I heard a lot of static, buzzing noises. It was just really terrifying.
Lawrence, what if, in fact, your father had seen them too before you had?
Well, it's what I think. And I think my father just said, just go to sleep. Like, just ignore it. I don't know.
I believe in it. And again, there's some that even believe that the giants are going to return. Now, this is interesting because you don't hear a lot about this, but I've come across a little information that said that Hitler and the Nazis were working on building a super soldier. And we know Mengele did all kinds of research, but there was other research that was being done, biotech. And I think fast forward to 2026, it's already been done over in places like China. And years ago, before the internet, you remember microfiche? We used to have to go and look things up on there. I was going down this trail probably back, 92 or something like that. And I looked up, and I found this island called the island of Elba, where Napoleon was exiled too.
Napoleon was exiled. Yeah, I've been there.
Supposedly, on that island was a biotech company. And they had to do their research there. They nicknamed it, dubbed it Biotech Island, because they were working on, merging man with machine, if you will. Now we got cloning. We've got, who knows what they're doing. We've got CRISPR technology. And this was a special documentary I had to buy, and they were going into bunkers over there in Germany, and they went into one place, and they found these dissection tables. And they said at the same time they were using slave labor to build some of these, many of these underground facilities, to build rockets and aircraft and bunkers. They were also doing medical experiments down there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I got to thinking, how far did they get in their genetic research? How far are we today? Have they found some DNA?
Well, this is what I was thinking. Going back to Tim Burchett, as I say, for many years I was very scared, and then I got over it, and then I sort of got courage to go out and look for them, if that makes sense. I can't explain it. I was so terrified, and then after a while it was like, okay. It was like when I was a kid, we were jabbed a lot when I grew up in Southeast Asia, yellow fever, all this stuff, and we were in military schools.
I
And
didn't know you were in Southeast Asia. I got to ask you about that later, but what
yeah,
did you do?
I went to school in Malaya and in Singapore. That's where I went to school.
In Singapore, you've been to Malaysia too?
Yeah, that's where we first were. We were there first in Johor Bahru. Yeah, that's where we went to school because my father was based there. The submarine base was down there during the Cold War.
Amazing. You've been to Kuala Lumpur?
Of course. HMS Terror was.
I love that place. 15 times I've been there.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Memories.
I didn't know this about you. That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So I went to. I was at first. We were at the Army School in Johor Bahru, and then we moved over to Singapore, and we were at the Royal Naval School.
Well, heck, did you get to Indonesia?
No.
So let me ask you this. Back to the story. So did you go cryptid hunting? I've got a friend who has a show about cryptids. They go out there looking for the stuff in the woods.
Looking for what?
Cryptids, Bigfoot.
Oh.
They call them cryptids. It's like there's a belief, and I believe it's probably true, that
I believe they're true. We're laughing because, I want to go to Canada, and I say to my son, I said, oh, do you think they've got Sasquatch there? He says, oh, Mummy, come on. I said, I'm telling you, they're real. But exactly, yeah.
I believe that they spotted a brontosaurus or some type of dinosaur down there in the jungles of the Congo. And to get out there, you've got to go through leech-infested waters. You might die trying to get over there, but the pygmies know all about it. There was a guy from Vice TV went over there. So did you, when you decided to embrace this, that it's real, did you go out there looking for it? Did you find anything?
Yeah, I did. No, when I say went looking for it, I had a lot of activity of UFOs over the property here.
Did you see orbs?
Yes. And do you know what's really weird? I took some pictures. I've got to go and find the photographs.
Wow.
I took pictures of metal orbs, one over here over the village, and it was shiny. You could see the shine on it. And it was only a week or so ago that I saw those orbs that they found with hieroglyphics on them and stuff.
Really?
And yeah. It was published. But what I was saying about Tim Burchett. So anyway, I got over that, and I confronted my fears. I was saying the reason I was telling you about Southeast Asia, we were always getting jabbed as kids because the military loved jabbing you, right?
Right.
And I was always so terrified to be the last one, so I'd run to the front. I say, jab me now, because I never wanted to be the last one because it's more scary. So it's a bit like that. When I'm scared, I have to go out and then confront it. So I. It's so silly. And an incident happened over here when I was married, and I was here. It was actually in this bedroom. And when you're just sort of falling asleep, and I was in bed, my husband was there, and I had my eyes closed. And when you have a light that turns on and you've got your eyes closed, so you see the light.
Yes.
And I thought, what was that? It was like luminous fluorescent green. And I opened my eyes, and the whole outside garden and through my bathroom window, because it's en suite, I could literally see there must have been something very strong over the house because I could see the shadows that had been pushed by the leaves on a tree outside of my bathroom window. And I remember shaking my husband saying, oh my God, Sebastian, look at the light, look at the light. And he was such a coward, he stayed under the blankets. He didn't come out. And I put my foot and I went to open the door. And I know it's crazy. The moment I opened the door, it went off like a light switch.
I believe you.
and this light was over the house. But then I started to get a bit creepy because I wouldn't tell people, I'm telling you this now, I've never done this in public, but I wouldn't tell people about my experience unless there was a reason. I'd say, and then, I noticed over the last 15 years, you start meeting people. It's almost like you're all drawn together, certain people of a certain mindset. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's
Absolutely.
like Carol Rosin, I know that. So when I met Carol, and then I'd meet somebody else and we'd sort of bond, and then I'd say, I need to ask you a question. They'd say, what? I say, what's your view on extraterrestrial activity, or these craft? And every single one of them, they say, yeah, I believe it. And it's like we're starting, like-minded groups are coming together. It's a bit like
Well, let me share something with you.
yeah.
There's been hundreds of thousands of testimonies of these things. They've seen them, loss of time, the Greys, the Bigfoot, etc. Too many to dismiss. Whatever they end up to be, there is one common denominator that holds true. They're not our friends. And if you get in that situation again, here's how you protect yourself. You say, I rebuke you in Jesus' name. For whatever reason, they don't like the name of Jesus, and they will go, and it will stop right there. But if you get in a situation where you get paralyzed by a succubus spirit, get frozen, you need to call me. It happened to my brother. He was laying in bed in Jacksonville.
Well, when you're paralyzed, we're not going to be able to call you.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, it will happen, and then you'll be released. You need to call me because that's an attack of evil.
Oh no, I've had that many times. That's horrible. Sleep paralysis.
It's a horrible feeling.
Horrible, because you can't scream.
One time
I'm
frozen. I'm just saying, if I knew I was on the edge of the bed. If I can just move enough to fall off the bed and hit the floor, I'll snap out of it. That was horrible. And that would make another story, but I had a brother, half-brother in Jacksonville, Florida, laying in his bed, and he saw this black shape, a demon, jump on him, and it began to choke him in the jugular.
Oh,
and he screamed out multiple times, Jesus, Jesus. He said the thing let go of him. It ran out of his room, and it slammed the door behind it as it left. He was so traumatized, he had found a way to this workshop on breaking generational curses. And so these things are real, but for whatever reason, they will run when you mention the name of Jesus. Now, I believe I know the reason, but I'm just saying that to anybody out there who encounters this stuff, because they're not your friend. And
no, I believe that, but there have been some forms that have appeared that, like they talk about these ones that are very blonde, very, very, I mean, they talk about the manifestation of the Virgin Mary. Some people are going to get very offended by this. And the lady in blue, and she's very kind and very. Now there have been a lot of these apparitions. Now,
well, there's one called the Lady in White, named Lilith. Now, what if your husband had died? I'm not saying this is you. I'm just saying in general. This is a true story. What happened if your husband had died, and then one night you're in your bedroom and he appeared? You made love, and he would come back every night at about midnight, and they would have relations. And then she told somebody, hey, my husband's come back from the dead. I'm having relations with him. This is a true story. It's a short story. It's kind of funny. I had some friends that were involved in the deliverance ministry. They were in church. I had this guy who finally confessed that he had been having sex with a spirit at night. He said it was a very beautiful woman that would come in to his bedroom, and they would have relations, and he liked it, and he had no problem with it. And they said, you can't be doing this. This is evil. And he said, I can't help it. So they prayed and they asked God to show him what was actually manifesting. And the next time that thing visited him, he's making love with this spirit, and it turned into a big, ugly gorilla. It was a demon. It freaked him so much, he repented, but they never saw him again. He ran. Now, that stuff can turn into whatever you want it to be. If you'll ever see the movie They Live, which is a really cool sci-fi movie, this guy puts on a pair of sunglasses, and then he can read the subliminal messages and the signs. Have you ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
Well, that's your homework assignment for this week. I got 2 movies for you. You got to get. Bo can find them. They Live. It's a great sci-fi movie that illustrates what I'm talking about. But then there's another one called the Forbin Project. It's about this guy built a supercomputer and what the AI does Have you ever heard of that one, the Forbin Project?
No, no.
1967. You love movies, don't you? So I'm going to send you a link. You can find them down. You got to watch these. But yeah, this guy, he all of a sudden saw what it was that was knocking the boots with him, and it was a big hairy ape. These things are real. Listen, there's a
I
whole
do think
world out
there
there.
is manifestations, but this is what I'm saying. I
Yes.
don't think you can class everything as being demonic, because there are, I do believe, there are other life forms that are off planet, or not even off planet. Maybe they're down under the ground. We don't know. Some people say they've been here for thousands of years. Because
Under the
remember, in
ocean?
old folklore, old folklore, and they talk about the fairies and goblins and things like that. If you look
Real.
back at that, yeah. But what's worried me recently, as I say, I sort of got over my fear, and I knew they were there. And then years later, I saw the first image of what I'd seen, and it was on the front cover of Whitley Strieber's communion book.
So the next
And
time you see that, if it happens again, you remember what the Omega Man said. If you get serious, say, I rebuke you in Jesus' name. Martin Memorial doesn't go, poof, it'll be gone. These things are real.
no, but I think what's happening now, and this is why it's worried me about Tim Burchett. Now been he's been given some really, really, top classified, above top secret information. And he can't talk about it. And if you look at Tim Burchett now and what he's been speaking about lately, so when we all talk about, come on, get on with the disclosure, because I've said it for years. I know they're
Right.
real. I know it's real. Get on with the disclosure. Why is people so frightened? Whatever. And I do realize it could turn people, their whole lives will collapse. People won't want to work. It could really affect society. However, because they're not disclosing, and what Burchett's been saying recently is very scary. And I think now, when he's talking about, because you've heard it before, interdimensional beings,
Yes.
and this could be the effect when you're talking about the demonic
Yes.
element, interdimensional. And when Burchett said recently, unfortunately, if you knew what the reality was, you'd never sleep at night. He said that recently. Go and check him out. And Burchett is completely legit. I mean, he's solid. And it hit me recently because I said I wasn't worried, because I knew there were extraterrestrials here, a different life form. They're an intelligent life form. They've got because remember, let's not forget Operation High Jump. Okay,
Right.
1946, 1947, and the Brits were down there. What on earth were all these massive Western governments spending millions at a time when we were recovering from a war, going down to Antarctica? And who was down there? Were the Germans and the Glock, the Bell, anti-gravitational craft.
Oh.
I've got photographs. The chap that I was first involved with on the first submarine, because this is a good way to wind it down as well and go back to the submarines. It's very connected. The anti-gravitational technology, I believe it exists. Bob, what's his name? What's his
Oh,
name?
Bob Lazar.
Bablazar, yeah, area S4
51.
range.
Yes, S4.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
S4.
Yes.
I got arrested there. I think I told you in 19.
No.
Yeah, I did.
I got to hear that. I was going to tell you, I
No,
went
no,
out
no,
to Area
it's
51.
not. It's not that important. It's not. Yeah, I got arrested in 19. I tell you, 19. Well, Charles was born in. Okay, so Charles was two and a
Amazing.
half. It was 1997, 1999. I got arrested there.
What were you down there covering? Were you looking into the
Oh, it's a
UFOs?
long. We went out in the desert and we took an RV, and my brother who lives in Los Angeles, and we went out, and I had a nanny, and I had the little one there with me, and we
Yes.
went out, and I said, "Come on, we got to go to Area 50. We've got to go out there to Area 51."
Yes.
And we drove, and I loved the Mojave Desert, and I
Oh,
love
yeah.
Nevada. Oh my
I loved
God.
it.
Oh, amazing. And so we went to the S4 range at night. And of course, this was before the war on terror.
Yes.
And obviously, they had heat seeking. And we went out, and I said, let's go and do some photographs and stuff, and let's see out here what we can see at night. And I said to my brother, let's see how long it takes them. Literally in 5 minutes, there must have been about, I don't know, 15 like sort of
White
camouflage.
Broncos?
Yeah, that came. No, 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 no. They were military, and these guys were built like, as we say, ship brick houses. In
Right.
English, we say it's very vulgar. I mean, these are big guys. These were like Marines,
Yes.
and they arrested us. And of course, I did the whole British. They said, declare who you are. We weren't even trespassing. Declare who you are. And I said, no, we're British. You tell us who you are.
Right.
Anyway, we were held for about 4 hours. And I kept saying to them, can't you take us into the base? And this guy laughed a bit in the end. And then we were let off as Code Blues. But we could have been anything. And I think what they were concerned about was this massive RV that could have been full of explosives, let's be honest. But this was actually before. And I asked them some questions. Oh, and I was filming. And I've actually got the film somewhere. I have to find it.
Amazing.
It was on a high 8 camera. And he said, ma'am, you need to turn that off. And I said, no, why? And he said, because I can't remember, there's a military base here. I said, but I'm not on the base. So we
So you were
argued.
still on public land, right? But I guess they
Yeah.
got nervous.
We hadn't crossed into the base. But let me tell you, they were there fast. They were there really fast. And we did see a lot of lights there in the desert in Mojave and out there.
So were you at, do you think you're Area 51 or S4? I heard there's another facility out there called
Well,
S4.
the S4 range, it's all part, it runs. We were at Area
Okay.
51, but then we went to the S4 because then we saw the sign of the, I've got photographs somewhere, I'll send you.
Did you get up to the little shack and the fence?
No, it was nighttime. It was nighttime.
So
And when we got held up, we were detained. And of course, they were doing a security check. Who are we? But the point is that whole place, they're hiding stuff, and it's not just, I know, stealth and all that stuff, but they had other places.
they got a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. So I was telling you, going back to Operation High Jump, one of the guys I was working with that I didn't feel was completely trustworthy, he was actually a member of the Explorers Club. And now in the Explorers Club, at their office in New York, they actually have some very old manuscripts. Do you know about this?
No,
And
you're talking National Geographic Explorer Club.
well, it's not National Geographic, it's the Explorers Club. So,
okay. So tell me about these maps.
they were originally set up by, yes, National Geographic.
Okay.
But
Okay.
now they're sort of independent. Now, in there, they've got very old archives because originally they were explorers that would go off and do stuff. They've got stuff from the Himalayas. They've got things like, old stuff from ancient Egypt. They talk about, stuff that there had been a nuclear fallout at the times of ancient Egypt because all this sort of stuff. But anyway, Byrd, Admiral Byrd, right?
Yes.
Admiral
Operation
Byrd.
High Jump.
Right.
Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd
That's right.
Jr., 4,700 personnel, 13 ships, 25 airplanes. What are they doing up there at Antarctica?
Now, there is a really good black and white film that I'm going to send you that I've saved it because you can't find it. Or maybe you can still find it back again, but they got rid of it. And Byrd is interviewed about when he did his first stuff down in Antarctica. Now, remember, he's an admiral, naval admiral. He's not some crazy. They can't write him off as crazy. And he talks about how in Antarctica, underneath, there's another land. There's a land. You go in there, it's all green and lush and everything. And what he saw there was so amazing. Now, the Germans were down there. The British were down there. The Germans were building Die Glocke. They said that's where it did. Now, I've got photographs that came out of the Explorers Club archive from Operation High Jump. I was given to them in confidence, but I'm going to tell you about them. And I can actually send you a couple of pictures, but of course you can't publish them because I'll get in trouble. But then at least I can back it up with you. You can say, yeah, I saw these pictures. And you can take the view that they want. But they have been forensically analysed, these photographs. They are on printed paper. They were taken from the film because you analysed that, from High Jump. And you can actually see flying craft going along with the boats in Antarctica.
Wow. Wow. And you have to ask yourself, why is that one of the most restricted places on the planet?
Well, there you go. What's there? Why would they all be fighting and spending billions? Why would the Brits be down there? at the time of the war. The last thing we needed was to be going off on a jolly in Antarctica.
Well,
So,
they say it's mineral rich, and people have claimed their rights. Okay, so what if it is? But why are you
well, it's
blocking
not.
people from
It's
going
not
over?
just that. There's some very strange stuff
Well,
down there.
they've never blocked off other places that have minerals, so why use that excuse? And our very own friend Harry Cooper was trying to launch an expedition over there, and he said he was shut down.
Of course, he was. You're not
He
allowed to go there.
he was literally going to get on a boat and go over there. Try to fly out there. You're restricted in how far you can go. Hey, I believe, and listen, I believe that was probably a lush landscape. We had some freeze, and you put an ice layer, no telling what's down there. I know that they've drilled down into the water. The water underneath it's pristine, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is. Absolutely.
Is there
That
something?
reserve.
Is there something buried over there?
I don't think it's
I'm not.
buried. I think that there literally is a whole new world there. Do you remember the movie? You? I don't know if you ever saw it. I saw it as a little girl, and it was
Tell me.
called Lost Horizon.
Oh yes, yes. I saw the restored version.
Oh, was there a restored version? Wasn't that the film? I could have got them mixed up. The time. Isn't that where they go up to Shangri-La
Yes,
and they go up into the
the plane
mountain?
crash. Yes.
Yeah,
So
and then they go through this like portal,
right.
and there is this beautiful sunny paradise type thing with like Tibetan monks type thing. Tibet is also very connected to this stuff. And in the Explorers Club archive, there's a lot of paperwork from Tibet about this, about these. So, this is the thing, portals, okay, leading into other dimensions. And I think that's what Bircher is saying without saying it. Because I'm thinking now, what can be so terrifying? And it's about the fact, maybe, and this is going to be really mad, I'm going to say this, is it possible we talk about the deep state, we talk about Soros, and we talk about who the hell are they? What if these are interdimensional beings that have taken over the governments?
I think that there are definitely these families that are connected with supernatural beings, no question about it. You know, some call them the Council of 13.
Yeah.
We know about the Bilderbergers, but there's groups that are way up there in the Illuminati. Illuminati's not even at the top. It's way up there. No telling what's over there that they don't want us to have access to.
Yeah.
Antarctica. Let me, well, I had another thought I wanted to ask you about, but it just
You
slipped
can
my
ask
mind.
me what you want. You can ask me what you want. It's fine.
Well, my brain drifted. I got off on a rabbit trail. Can't find my way back. That would be pretty amazing, though, to get over there and check that out. Of course, you want to take a gun. There's a lot of polar bears over there. But, it was
You
like
can't get very far.
the
I
story
remember.
with, go ahead.
Yeah.
You first.
No, go on.
Well, you mentioned that you had to fight off cartel and snakes. Did you come up across any snakes, by the way, over there in the in Colombia or in the Amazon?
Oh, there are lots of critters over there, aren't there? I'm very careful about that. You
My
know,
goodness.
yeah. Of
You've been on
course.
some adventures. No, what I was going to tell you is I was making a 20-hour nonstop trip. Don't ask me why. From Austin, Texas to Georgia. And I just happened to be able to tune into Coast to Coast, and it had Art Bell, and it had Major something. Anyway, they were talking about Mars. And the story he was breaking is they've always called it the Red Planet. But that's only because they didn't have the video tuned in, and when you tune it in, it looks just like areas of Nevada, the desert. Looks just
Yeah.
like the Earth. It's not red, they said. It's the Earth. They just had the monitor, the tent turned up. And I wonder about that. There are some that have believed that even, the Bible talks about Rahab, and it's an allusion to maybe what may be the asteroid belt out there that at one time was a planet, and they were doing some wicked stuff over there, and God destroyed it and just burst it into smithereens, and it's the remnant of a planet that once was. And some believe there were angels that ruled planets. I have a friend, and he happens to be a Messianic Jewish believer. He found some stuff in an archaeological dig out in Arizona, and it's a famous find. It's called the Flagstaff Stone. And he actually had a dream about it. And in this dream, Lawrence, he dreams he's up there doing some archaeological digs, and he finds this object buried about, I guess, 30 feet down. Well, they actually got out there and they were digging in this area of Arizona, and he had to go back and take care of some business. So he had his students out there continuing to dig, and they're sorting everything they find. And they called him up. His name is Jeffrey Goodman. He wrote a book called The Comets of God. Talks about comets, and he also did a thing on the Native Americans were probably in America as long as 13,000 years ago. But back to the Flagstaff Stone, they're digging, and they find this object down at the depth that he had the dream. And he said it was a piece of rock, and it had a diagram, man-made, and he said it looked like it was a piece of saran wrap over it. They recovered it. They began to analyze it. And he talked to one of the students that had worked under Einstein, and the guy recognized it. It was some that's astronomical diagram involving Venus and some astronomical cycle. And then the Bureau of Land Management seized it. And they stopped any further investigation and study of it, and they put it in a box, basically. And he didn't get it back for 25 years. And I was talking to him and doing some shows. This was amazing guy. He'd been in the oil business. He was an archaeologist. He's an author. Look him up, Dr. Jeffrey Goodman. And then just a few years ago, they finally got the object back, and he finished his examination of it. Definitely made by a culture, he said, that were in America thousands of years before they should have been. I thought that was an interesting story, but one of the things that he researched was like Cro-Magnon man. And it's a known fact that there are people walking the planet right now that got a little bit different DNA than some of the others. Mm-hmm. And he said that there were actually some type of Cro-Magnon creature, even pre-Adam and Eve, in other words. They weren't created the same as Adam and Eve with a soul, but, you know, the caveman, if you will, he said there was another group out there. And you have to ask your question, Cain and Abel, you know, Cain killed his brother Abel, right? And then it says he went out into the land of Nod and found his wife out there. Who did he marry? Who did he marry? Was there another creation down here? Some Cro-Magnon man walking the ground? I don't know. I think it's very possible. I think there's a lot of stuff we don't know. And this sure intrigues me.
And it's getting scarier all the time, in a way.
And there's cover-ups on it, just like we're talking about the U-boats. They got to cover up every blasted thing. I'm angry.
Well, this is what's so irritating, isn't it? It's so condescending. Who the hell are they to dictate what we're entitled or not entitled to know? Although I have to say, there is a lot of ignorance. For example, I feel really sorry for those people that did take the jabs. I feel very sorry for them.
Oh, yes.
And it is scary. And it's not a lost cause, because there are ways to detox. In fact, Peter McCullough has found some.
Yes.
And the people, I was working with a group when it first went with Dr. Stephen Frost, and I was in that group with Kennedy and that. They invited me in as a journalist, you know, and finding ways to get around it and all the analysis. And nobody really knew at the time. It was a while later when they saw the spike protein, but they could see the cytostorm that was created by these things. But
I believe it was a man-made military weapon.
Of course, a bioweapon, absolutely.
John Hopkins was involved in it.
Sorry?
I said John Hopkins University.
Yeah.
Gain of function, apparently France and China. But let me ask you a question. We're talking about the biological weapon. They've got another one, which hasn't been released yet, but it's been on the shelf for a while. You know, you had the mRNA. They got another one called sa-mRNA. I know what I wanted to ask you. Okay, it just came back to me. So you knew RFK, and he was involved in a couple lawsuits against Monsanto and won big against them, which was snatched up by Bayer. But how do you feel about this executive order from President Trump in February this year, and it's called the National Defense of Food Act or something, and they have basically said we need glyphosate. It's essential to our food production because for the last, 50 years or so, all the farmers have been using it, and we can't allow a situation to occur where all of a sudden China or one of these other countries that makes it cut us off. So we need to be able to make glyphosate ourselves and also have elemental like phosphorus or something for fertilizer. So how do you feel? I feel betrayed. President Trump signed an executive order to allow them to use glyphosate. You know what glyphosate is? Ready Roundup?
No, I know what it is. They use it as a herbicide. I know, but they also say glyphosate is also involved in. They said in the vaccines. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Well,
in Roundup,
same
Roundup.
company that gave us Agent Orange, Monsanto.
Yeah,
This
Roundup.
stuff causes cancer.
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of people have gotten cancer.
Well, of course, but not only that, that Monsanto, as you know, control even the seeds here, and obviously in America. So there was a really, really good documentary. Oh, what was it called? And it was about how Monsanto had these seeds, and then some seeds had blown off from one farm to another farm.
Yes.
Do you remember that story?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Terminator seeds, and then all of a sudden they would sue all these little farmers and say, you're using our stuff. Well, it's because you're right next to us and your seeds blew over. It's not our fault.
But then you're not allowed to grow stuff unless it's been modified, genetically modified.
And so they patented it and said, you're in violation of our patent. And they would send people out in the middle of the night just to go out and just look for it. And the neighbor's crops, if they find it, then they launch a suit against you. And who can fend off a $1 million lawsuit? My brother was sued one time, and for control of the company that my dad died, and my brother was supposed to succeed him. And they fired my brother when my dad died. He was in the media company, and one of his big clients came looking for my brother one day. They said, Damon Davis don't work here anymore. What happened to him? I don't want to deal with anybody but Damon Davis. And so he found my brother and said, I want you to take over my media. And when the former partners of my dad, sadly my stepmother was involved in this, didn't take care of us. She sells the company. They said to my brother, we're going to put $1 million in a fund to sue you. And he went through living hell. In the end, he finally won. But these people have unlimited budgets at these cartels, and you would just have to fold. As a little farmer, they would put you out of business. I mean, you couldn't survive. I mean, and for our president to sign that in executive order. So I was thinking, what the hell is RFK going to say about it? And he wasn't saying anything, but I want you to look this up. He did get invited to Joe Rogan about a month or two back. And
did he go?
He was asked, yeah, he did, and he was asked this very question, and he gave a response, and I think it was a good response he gave. He's not a happy camper about it, but he said, we've gotten ourselves into some serious trouble. If they cut us off from glyphosate, we would probably have a famine in America. Well, if they cut us off from oil because we don't have refineries, we'd be in trouble. Well, then let's fix this. If I were Elon Musk with $400 billion, I'd be doing a lot of things. Make a steel plant here. I would get oil refineries going on.
It's very odd, isn't it? It's really peculiar that.
I feel betrayed by President Trump because he's indemnified glyphosate. Now, there are people that have taken it to the Supreme Court. They're suing still, but they've got a green light. And, that stuff gets down into the core of the plants, and they spray it on all the wheat. I don't even buy cereal for my children. I'm afraid they're going to get glyphosate poisoning.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad. And God forbid you live in an area where there's farms next to you. When they start to spray that stuff catches in the wind. It's really bad for those people in Brazil.
Terrible.
Have you run into it in Argentina yet? Any problems down there with glyphosate?
Well, they're a bit of a law unto themselves, but now, of course, Monsanto does control everything here. So, herbicides and stuff. The thing is, you can still get away with doing your own thing because there are vast areas here. So that's probably another reason why people like you were saying, Peter Thiel and that is coming down here, because they can get away from all what's going on. I think
he knows America's damned. It's so interesting. It wasn't long ago, we've got global warming. We need to get rid of.
Rubbish. We know that's rubbish. That's just another money machine. That was sorry. Maybe believe it. It's
I didn't believe it. I knew it was fake. But now they don't even talk about it because they need all the power they can get to build the AI super centers and run them.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and for what reason? So we can make better thumbnails. So we can
I
make
don't
better
know.
YouTube videos.
It has gone insane. And sometimes, do you ever think that you're maybe a solipsist, that this is all your imagination? Because it's just getting too weird.
I want to tell you that just about every sci-fi movie I saw from the '70s is coming true. Again, I was a child at 5 years old that gave me a Daisy BB gun, and I remember going to movies every week. I learned two things from my dad: love of guns and love of movies. I've seen thousands, but do you remember Rollerball 1974 with James Caan?
No, no, no.
Oh,
James Caan.
I got to catch you up, girl, on these movies.
I don't get. I have to say, I'm not a big movie fan. I have to
Well,
be
you
honest.
need to do this for journalistic research. I'm going to send you a list of must-watch movies. You got to watch that one. You got to watch Future World, 1976 with Peter Fonda. What about the great Soylent Green with Charlton Heston?
No.
1970s. You haven't seen Soylent Green? You're kidding me. Okay. Okay, I'm going to
I
keep
tell you
you
what I did
busy.
see. I tell you what I did see a couple of years ago, or was it a year or so ago? That very peculiar movie that was executive produced by the Obamas.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Are they still working for Netflix, running that thing? I'm curious.
I
I
don't
know
know,
the
but
movie you're talking about,
that was very creepy.
but I'm talking about hardcore sci-fi movies. It's almost going by the book. What about Logan's Run? Did you see
Yeah,
that
I
one?
think I saw. I think I saw that a century ago.
With the great British actor, Logan's Run,
I don't remember who it was.
Michael York.
Yes, yes,
Michael
lovely. I
York,
loved him. Yeah.
Peter Ustinov was in there, and Richard Jordan. Okay, listen, I got some research you need to do, because then you're going to begin to think like I'm thinking. I'm thinking, are people asleep? I begin to put stuff up, and I don't even get a response. They don't understand. I was warning them about COVID
As I
19.
was saying, it's like the jabs. They are a lot of people now are in denial,
They're in
and
denial.
they'd rather. Yeah, yeah, they're scared. People are
This
scared.
is invasion of the body snatchers. They've already
Oh
been
my
taken
god.
over, and I'm
Yeah.
talking the good ones.
That's what I was saying to you. I'm feeling a little bit when Burchett said that the other day, as I say, because I know a lot of that stuff is going on. But then it just dawned on me, this is much bigger than just life forms. This is interdimensional beings. And they are taking, it sounds really mad,
Yes.
this. It does sound like the body snatchers, that they are taking control of governments and stuff. Because it's almost like people look at, listen, you're going to laugh here.
Tell me.
Charlie Kirk's wife.
Oh yeah, Bride of. Yeah. Listen.
Weird, weird. I thought,
Weird.
I tell you what, day one, I got really slammed for that because I put something on social media.
Yep.
And when she was at his coffin and she filmed herself kissing his hand and whispering that she loved him, do you know what I felt? I felt that was such an invasion of his privacy. How dare she, you know, film her husband's dead body and her? It was all about her. And then the big fireworks and stuff, very weird stuff.
Well, interesting what Candace Owens uncovered with regards to some of
Of course, and
the
they're all
connections.
trying to say that she's a lunatic now, and of course they're discrediting Owens now. I'm very worried for Candace Owens. Very
Absolutely.
worried.
Well,
And funny
she's
enough,
taken on some big
yeah,
stuff. Go ahead.
no, it's better I don't say it.
No, you got to
But
say it now.
no, in
You already got me
retrospect, it's
curious.
better I don't say anything. But I worry very much for her.
Well,
She's not. She's
what
not
about Macron?
equipped. Oh,
What about Macron? Is that his
can't
uncle
stand.
that had a sex change? What is that
Very
that he's
well.
married to?
I do. Look, people say horrible things about Michelle Obama. I think Michelle is a woman. I actually look, Michelle. I'm disappointed since she's out the White House now. She's shown a bit of a racist side to her. She's got a bit of a chip on the shoulder, which
Yeah.
I'm really surprised at. But overall, I like Michelle Obama, and I can't stand him. But and I don't believe that absolutely. Macron's wife, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's as we say, a geezer. That
Oh,
is not.
I mean that's sick. And she
Oh
did a
no, no,
great
no, no,
expose
no, no,
on
no,
that.
no. Yeah. very weird stuff. And I tell you who else has always been weird. Actually, I said years ago, and people thought I was nutty, that Trudeau was Castro's boy,
Right.
and it's actually now hitting mainstream. Now it's leaking that it's mainstream that yes, Castro's son. And Castro is very, very weird. And now he's hanging out with that very weird singer. What's her name?
Oh, Katy
Katie.
Perry. Yeah, well, I don't like her. Ooh.
A lot of weird stuff.
I
There's a
think
lot
he
of
may be bisexual. I mean, listen, I can
oh
spot
yeah,
him.
oh totally closet
Effeminate.
gay. Oh,
Big time.
and oh totally. And he's such a spoiled little whinger. Do you remember when he got in all that trouble with his government? You saw him walk out like throw his hair back and go in
Yep.
a tantrum. Um, thank God we've got him. But then you've got somebody else now, Mark Carney in there.
That guy,
Which,
wasn't he Bank of England executive?
yeah, and the problem is now
He's a smart guy.
nobody, I believe, really voted for him. But Carney now is cozying up.
Globalist.
Yeah, and the Chinese, and it's just a mess. It's a total mess.
Canada's in
And
some serious, serious trouble. They've got a globalist in there, dyed in the wool. He'll sell them out to Jinping if that's what it takes.
right, let me ask you. So, where do you suggest is the best place for any of us to go to have some semblance of democratic freedom and life?
Well, you know, I left America with no intention to come back. And I was in Central America. As I mentioned, I was in Costa Rica 3 years, Panama 2 years, lived in Cartagena for a few months. You can't stay more than 6 months in a calendar year. So I had to leave there. I was in Tijuana. And it just turns out I've been in Bali. I didn't even know where it was on the map when I came here. I've been here 10 years. But at one time, I was planning to basically bug out, and I had invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into preps. And I was a gun dealer, I told you that. I had beans, bullets, bullion, gold. The only thing that was left for me to acquire was I was going to buy me a decommissioned missile silo. And I was
Oh
running
wow,
an herbal.
yeah. A
I
lot of
was
people
running,
have been building bunkers in there, haven't they?
well, they've been building bunkers, but I had a business. It was an herbal supplement business. I imported Hoodia from South Africa. And I had one of the top Hoodia products in the world back in 2005. And it ran for 4 years. It was a great business. And I'm taking all my expendable money and I'm buying preps. I had went into Mad Max mode. I was super paranoid. I believe martial law was coming to America. I didn't want to be put in one of those concentration camps. I was preparing. I was a survivalist, basically. And I was accruing cash, and I was going to buy $1 million missile silo. I was already shopping for one. And then the bottom fell out on the economy in 2008. And the last thing people were buying was a $59 weight loss pill called Hoodia. You're going to get natural weight loss if you don't eat. So we went belly up with everybody else. And I remember the day in 2009, I shut everything down in America. I put my stuff in a storage unit. I grabbed my laptop and my Iridium sat phone. I used to have 2 of those. You can make a call at that time from anywhere in the planet before where we're at today. And I headed off to Costa Rica. Obama's become president, and I figured it was the end of all freedom. And I stayed over there, and I wasn't coming back, Lawrence. And then God called me back to America. He told me to get off my buttocks and come back. I had some work to do, and we started OMEGAMAN Radio almost 16 years ago. But I used to think about this. Where do you go? Where can you run and hide from the New World Order? And it wouldn't be America. They've got drones everywhere. America's toast, sadly, at the rate we're going. And I heard, I was studying countries.
And the UK.
Forget the UK, it's gone too.
Yeah, it's gone.
I think South America is probably the best place to go in retrospect. Not in Central America. That's a dangerous place. And over there, I used to carry a .357 Magnum in my pocket at all times. You can get a concealed weapon permit in Costa Rica, and I didn't leave anywhere without a gun because there was no police over there to be found when you needed them. You were either your own security or you would be broken in on. We had a couple home invasions. Any place I would go there, for example, first thing I would do is I would put barbed wire on my gate. And that still wouldn't stop some of the ladrones. It's a dangerous place in Central America. a lot of discrimination down there. So I thought, I didn't know anything about Asia. I figured Europe is lost. It would probably be South America. So I was looking at Uruguay. I was studying it, and then I went back to Costa Rica.
Yes, yes.
At the end of the day, if you had unlimited money, there's no place to run and hide. Sadly, most of these nations have fallen under the World Health Organization, and we saw what happened during COVID. Even places you thought, used to be a place to go, New Zealand, that was one of the worst places you could be.
And Australia, terrible.
Australia, forget about that. And look at even the people over in the African nations who stood up against the WHO. They begin to mysteriously start dying. I think many of them were assassinated. And I don't know. I hope we don't go through that situation again. I don't know. I mean, they're always trying to rekindle that. Now it's Ebola and hantavirus. I'm not worried about that. But the safest place to be, as someone told me a long time ago, is in the center of God's will. So all I know is that be in God's will.
Oh, God's will, yes.
Yeah, Jesus said, I'll never leave nor forsake you. So look, I'm sitting over in one of the largest Muslim nations in the world. There are militant groups over here. The island of Bali so far has been pretty good. But I tell you what, I woke up last night. I had fallen asleep, got up, and I said, oh, man, I didn't brush my teeth. I got to take my contacts out. And I went to check on the dogs. It was about 2:30, almost 3 in the morning, and I heard a scooter pull up right in front of my gate and just turn off its engine. And I'm like, what is somebody doing outside in front of my gate? And I went out there, and I poked my head through, and I spoke to the guy. I just said, what are you doing? Now, it turns out he didn't speak in English. I didn't speak Indonesian. And he looked at me like, huh? I said, what are you doing in front of my house? It's 3 in the morning, just about. Sorry, sir. He cranks up and goes on down the road. And now I'm already awake, and I'm thinking, was this about a home invasion just about to happen? I'm over in the country. I can't even defend myself. The only thing I got is a baseball bat. I went and grabbed my aluminum baseball bat. And I went back out there because I got a wife and I got 3 kids here. And, I haven't had any problems so far, but this could be the first one. They might have been trying to jack us. This guy turns around and he goes up the road, and then he comes back again. Dude, what are you doing? He goes away, and this time he's got a girl on the back. And I saw this girl about a month ago. She's from one of these African countries, and she's a hooker. I'm convinced of it.
He's probably a pimp.
And one day she was wandering the street like, I don't know where to go. Somebody had called her, and she couldn't find the John's house. She was out there for about an hour. And I asked my wife, did you see that girl wandering the street? I saw the same girl. This time, he picked her up. He must have been her pimp.
That's what I'm saying. He's the pimp. So he was going to pick her up after she'd been.
And they did something they shouldn't have done. They pulled right up again in front of my gate because I'm the first house on the street, number one. And I talked to them both. I said, hey, what are you doing in front of my house? And he mumbled something. And I said, you see camera there? Camera? And then I looked at her. I said, prostitute? Hooker? And she giggled. She was stoned out of her gourd. I think this was the pimp. And there's some dude down the road, and I'm going to have a confrontation with him soon. My wife has said there's a black dude living down the street, and he's the one calling these hoes. I said to the guy, police, and he kind of laughed at me. The dude on the scooter. They finally left, but it was unnerving. And I said, this is really scary. I got nothing in here but a baseball bat and maybe a butter knife to defend myself. Yeah. So on Friday, I'm starting lessons. I've got a French dude that I found. He's a Eskrima fighter, the sticks. And I'm having him come out, and I'm going to have him teach the OMEGAMAN stick fighting because that's about the only thing I have over here. It's like a farm tool, or then I need to find me a pitchfork. Now, that might work. I mean, this is pretty sad because back in America, I would just reach for my guns. In Costa Rica, I could even do it. It was amazing. You could own a gun down there under a corporation. And one more story for the road. You mentioned Oliver North. I got an Oliver North story. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
When I was 21 years old, I found out I could get a federal firearms license. That's the youngest you can be a gun dealer in America, 21.
Yeah.
I didn't have any money for an arsenal, but I said, hey, you got to start somewhere. So I got the license, and then I put an ad out in a thing called Shotgun News, and it was this gun magazine. I said, I will beat any dealer's price, $35 over dealer cost. I started to get calls. And people would come in, and I'd make them pay up front. I would order the gun, and when it came in, I would do the paperwork. I would transfer it to them. I got to handle all kinds of guns that I couldn't afford. And I had one guy's name was Steve Firestone. He was an attorney. I had another dude that came in, and they have to write on the form 4473 what their employment was. He said retired CIA. I had all kinds of people coming in. It was fun. And I would get to handle the gun and, slobber and think, man, I wish I had $1,000 I could buy that Colt.
Yeah.
Make a long story short, I said, I'm going to get a concealed weapons permit. So I was living in the city of Alexandria, and it was almost impossible to get them, but I said, I'm going to try. So I was always a good writer, so I wrote the judge on the application the reason for needing the concealed permit so I could carry the gun in my pocket was there's a proliferation of guns getting on the street of D.C. Reagan was talking about it all the time. Drugs and guns in D.C. And I said, look, I'm only 15 miles from D.C. I don't want to be hit as I'm going to the bank or somebody hit my store, which was in the home. And then my guns end up on the streets of D.C. So I need this to protect.
That was a good argument. Yeah.
About a week later, I opened the mail, and there it was. Approved by the judge. They gave me a little card.
Oh, wow.
Now, I told my friend Steve Firestone, the attorney, I said, Steve, look at this. They gave me a concealed weapon permit. His eyeballs almost dropped out. He said, no way, it's impossible. He said, I got friends who are judges who have been turned down. How did you get this? And I told him. He said, you want to know something? He said, only you and Oliver North had a concealed weapons permit here in Alexandria. And they said they revoked his because of the Iran-Contra scandal. So for a time, the OMEGAMAN was the only one with a concealed permit. And all I could afford was a little Raven pistol, cost you $25. Put it in my pocket. So I've always been around guns.
You can't, well, that's something we talk about.
I feel castrated over here. I got a friend who's an American, and my friend, he has a BB gun. Oh, and it's like an amazing thing. He said, you know what it took me to get this? A BB gun. You got to have a license for it. That's all you can get over here.
Oh, my God.
I said, a BB gun?
Outrageous.
I said, are you kidding me? Is it come to that? I'm back to 4 years old with a Daisy BB rifle. Is that the best you can do? So I've got to upgrade. I'm looking for a samurai sword or maybe a machete.
Yes.
What do you use down there? Are you allowed to have guns in South America?
I sleep with a Colt, an old Colt revolver.
Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky.
And in this room, there are, because we've got some old guns in there, but Bo's really, really good. And he did some armory courses, and he's really, really good at cleaning them up because I'm really a stickler for gun hygiene. And I'd say to Bo, that's an old gun. We should be careful.
Yes.
And he's really good. So we've got all the old shotguns working.
All you need is a 12 gauge.
Yeah.
Those are lovely. Just point and shoot.
Yeah. Perfectly. Take out 3 at a time.
Look, over here, you can't have anything. I'm dead serious. So I'm going to go back.
I would not be so relaxed if
I was on edge. I prayed, of course. I had my my aluminum baseball bat, and I said, "This is pathetic." Who knows what might have come from that out there? I might have had to get into a scrap, and this is all I got to protect myself. So I don't know.
No, and that's the problem, because even when you're using something like that, like, I don't know, a machete or something like that, you've got to get close enough to engage, and that's the problem. And that's the beauty of having a weapon, a firearm, as you know. You don't have to engage with them. It's irrelevant whether you're good at all sorts of martial arts or whatever it is. Or even with a knife, if you're using a good old Fairbairn and Sykes with a bit of SOE technique.
Oh, yes.
But you have to engage, and that's what you don't want.
Somebody suggested I get a slingshot with ball bearings, and another said an attack dog.
Oh, yeah.
So
but
I may have to.
You can't beat dogs. Do you have any dogs?
Yes, I have a Bazinji, but he's worthless. He doesn't bark. He's the barkless dog.
What is that?
It's a little dog that comes from Africa. It's got a curved tail and long legs like a horse. It's a little tiny one, and the pygmies use it to hunt. It'll point when it finds the prey, but it doesn't bark.
Do they
My
ride?
fa-
Do they put a saddle on it as well?
my father-in-law came over and said, "That's a dumb dog. It doesn't even bark." He thought it was retarded.
No, you got to get.
They yodel. That's all they do is they yodel.
No,
I
you
don't
got to
have.
get a couple of proper dogs.
So I need a dog that will bite the balls off of a thief, but it won't hurt the children. What breed is that going to be?
Well, it could be anything that really wants to protect you. It could be
Well,
anything.
that's what I need. I
You
think
want
I'm
a
going to have to get a
dog. You
dog.
want a dog that is not psycho, like a Doberman, or what's that other one they use that looks like what's the one that they're using a lot now?
Pit bull?
Uh, no, 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 no. I don't like those. You're not
No, we
having
don't want
those
those.
with
No, no,
children.
no.
You don't want those with children around.
No, no, no.
What's the other one that's got a really, really dangerous bite? And they're using them as K.
Oh, German Shepherd or a Chow?
It's not the German Shepherd. It's the other one. What's it called?
Oh, yeah. The black one.
They're absolute lunatics. They're
Yeah.
lunatics,
No, I don't want
but
that.
not with the children. You just need a really good, and not only that. It depends on which country are in, because some cultures are frightened of dogs. So I don't know how they are there.
So no, there's dogs everywhere, and that's the problem. They've got people that buy them and just let them live on the street.
You need to
And
get a really vicious baboon. That's what you need.
Yeah, I mean, we got cobras over here. I think I need a mongoose for that, and I need a dog for the thieves. But my father bought a Doberman when I was a child and named it Samson. This dog would come in and sit in the chair in the living room. And I
Yeah.
remember this dog. I thought it was fun. I would play a game. Me and my brother, we would run and get it to chase us until it bit me in the ass and left 3 holes.
Yeah.
He bit me in the
They're,
buttocks. This thing would just,
they're,
it
work,
would,
they're not dogs for kids. They're working
no,
dogs,
I
you
know.
know?
So that's not going to work. So, yeah, I mean, literally, that's what I'm contemplating.
Yeah,
Kept
you
me
have to.
awake.
Listen, it's not just having the weapons, having the dogs here, because you know that you can sleep, because you can have all the guns in the world. But if you're sleeping, you've got no first barrier of warning signal.
Right.
Okay, they just burst in, and the moment that somebody, a predator or anybody with a bad vibration, is coming in your property, the dogs are going to let you know, and then you go, and then you can get your weapon. So you need to sort that out,
Yes.
Shannon, and I'm sure you can sort out the entire thing. Do you know
I'm
what I'm
going to get a
saying?
dog. I'm going to get me a blowgun. I found
You need
those.
a
You can get
bloody
those.
bazooka. That's what you need, a bazooka. That's what you need.
I'm going to hit somebody in the buttocks with a dart. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run naked outside with a machete, and they're going to think I've lost my mind, and they're not going to even try. He'll be the crazy bully.
That's
I'm not,
right.
I'm not with 2 samurai swords.
Oh,
I'm not.
I
Yeah,
tell you what you can get.
tell me.
You can get a spear gun.
Oh, now that's an idea.
You can get that because they do spear fishing, don't they? Do you get that there?
Yes, they
Let
do.
me tell you, that's a very lethal weapon, as you know. In fact, Bo wanted one a few years ago, and I said, "You're not having one because it's too dangerous."
You know what? Thank you. I'm going to a fishing shop and looking this week for
Go
a
and get
spear
yourself
gun.
a really good high power spear gun. Just
I
make
love that.
sure there's children, and you can hang it from a ceiling or something. You know that it's really out of reach of the children's hands.
I'm going to do that because my
Yeah.
children, they like to disobey and get their hands in things they don't need to. But
Well,
I
they
will.
do, and it's fascinating. But that's just, oh my God, that's the only thing.
The first time
Yeah,
they reach for that, I'm going to spank their butt. I believe in corporal punishment, so I'll spank their hiney real hard. And you never touch Daddy's spear gun because we need that for the thief.
that's right. That's right. It's very,
Amen.
very dangerous. Yeah, and they have to understand how scary it is. So there you go. Go and investigate that.
Lawrence, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. Before we close,
Thank you
for
so
those that are
much.
just listening, tell people how they can reach you and how can they support the work you're doing.
Oh, I've got so much work to do. They can support me by, how can they support me? I don't know
Do
really.
you have PayPal?
Yeah, I do.
That's the easiest way. What is
That's
the
goldeneye.
email?
But listen, I tell you what, goldeneyefilm@gmail.com. Or they can go and, well, that's it really. That's it. They can buy me a coffee. That's good.
And when will When will your next book be out? What are you working on now for
Um,
release?
well, I've had a couple of hiccups with a good friend of ours that you remember, a chap who couldn't find his son, and you helped me with Harry to try and find his son
Right.
3 years ago. He's sort of gone. He's either gone into off radar, or they've actually got rid of him. So I'm having to sort of pause something that I was doing at the moment because it's a bit of a risk. So I'm changing a bit of tack. I've got the Patagonia, Operation Patagonia, that I've got to try and get finished. It's a very, very small book, and it's about um, Monasterio, Captain Monasterio, who met the Graf Spee engineer. And he's one of the guys that was interned from the Graf Spee, and then he got offered a job to go and work for the German intelligence down in Argentina during the war. And then he went off down um, to the house down in Villa Angostura in Alco. So that's the thing that I'm going to do now. I never thought I would do anything like that, but it's just something I've got to do, and then I'll get focused on other. But yeah, I'm doing multiple things,
Let me
and
ask you something, and I'll keep it very covert. Any updates on the Borman documentary? Any movement there?
very, very different. This is another thing. I'm finding it very exhausting that finding, and I'm not talking donors, because do you know what? It's always the people with no money that are always so kind. I'm talking about, there are a lot of very wealthy people out there who could possibly support some very, very good projects. And that's what I need. I need to find somebody that wants to come in and sit down and say, look, we need to be doing this, is important. And, I mean, there is a possibility there, but it's actually just getting it to the point where we can get past development and get into pre-production of putting something down as it should be. There are problems with the networks. The lead networks, the ones that actually have got a bit of a monopoly now, people like Netflix and everything, they're very left wing. We've got a real problem. What we need is a network set up by some big guys that are prepared to be a bit more conservative and are comfortable with producing real history, like the submarines, or take some risks. They need to take some risks. So that's it.
Absolutely. You've got
But
some stories that need to be told.
they have to
Folks,
be, and I'm getting to an age now. Years ago when I was asked to do things by certain people, like, as I told you, John Ainsworth Davis and Monasterio and like that. I was the younger thing then, and they were the older ones. And they pass you that baton, and they say, right, I'm entrusting you with this. I want you to go out there. Here are the tools. Go and put it together and get it out there. I'm at that age now. I've got to get it out there. I've got to do it now.
yes, you do. We make
Yeah.
sure we're ready to meet Jesus, number one. And number two, we got to get some of these jobs done. I want to thank you for coming on tonight, Lawrence. God bless you. Lawrence
We've been all over
DeMello.
the shop. We've spoken about everything tonight, haven't we? Really?
Isn't it fun? I always enjoy being on with you because I learn so much, and I feel freedom to go on rabbit trails.
I've had great fun. Thank you so much.
Listen,
and
get some rest. We'll give
Yep.
I'll send you a copy of your show, and please continue working on starting up the podcast. We'll help you, and
Yes.
it's going to be a great one. I'm looking forward to your
And then
podcast.
you'll have to come over to me, and I can interview you.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. You just
Yeah,
give them
we should.
Omega Man a mic. I can fill up like 5 hours, no problem.
No. We've got lots of stories. We've got to cover all the, the gun stuff and all that sort of thing, and Cartagena and all those things. Very important and very
We can
interesting.
call it Origins of the Omega Man, and don't forget to ask me about the Israeli sheik named Faisal, who I met as a young boy when he was trying to hit
That's
on
a
my
bit of an
aunt,
oxymoron, isn't it?
and he gave us some money. That's one of the stories we got to talk about, the sheik. We'll see you next
Okay,
time, Lawrence.
Thank you so much. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Good
God
night
bless
and
you.
God bless. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Folks, Lawrence DeMello. You can contact her at goldeneyefilm@gmail.com. That also doubles as a PayPal, I believe. And I encourage you to support her work, pick up her books, and we'll have this up in the archives here in just a few minutes. If you're coming in late, you want to get this show. It was an awesome program. We'll have Lawrence on again. Thank you, Lawrence, for coming on. And friends, that's going to conclude today's broadcast. We'll be back tomorrow. Yes, we will. Tomorrow with Tom Squared, T Squared. That's Tom Mack and Tom Barrett. Hey, by the way, I just modified the schedule. I've got a whole new schedule starting tomorrow, June 1. If you want to find out about dates and times and the schedule for the Demon Hotline and the other things we're doing, just go over and get on my Substack. That's how you're going to keep from being in the dark, because things are changing fast here at OMEGAMAN Radio. And that's where I put all my information out, so you will be up to date. ShannonRayDavis.substack.com. And if you enjoyed the program, drop an email to Lawrence. Tell her you enjoyed hearing her tonight on OMEGAMAN Radio and you want to have her back. She's got a lot more to talk about. GoldenEyeFilm@gmail.com. If you want to contribute to her work, you can give via PayPal there. She's doing some great stuff. She's got awesome books. GoldenEyeFilm@gmail.com. She also has a YouTube channel. We'll put a link up there. Yes, remember to ask. I'll save that story about King Faisal. And that happened circa 1979 when the first Star Trek movie came out. My brother and I were visiting our aunt. We ran into King Faisal. And he gave us something and gave her something. That story will be told on Lawrence's show. I'm saving it for that. Okay, folks, I love and appreciate you. Dave said, Mr. Megaman's favorite gun is a Walter PPK. I used to sell those in the store. I'll tell you what, that thing was so hard to chamber, I couldn't even pull it back. And I had brand new Walter PPK. There was a couple of versions of it. Yeah, I had that. I had Charles Bronson's gun from the Death Wish series. I had the Spas 12. I had Cobra M11 9mm. I had all the cool stuff. It was a black gun store, meaning black guns. Those are military armament. I was a Glock stocking dealer. Had all Glocks models. Rock River Arms, Armalite. I had anything I wanted. DS Arms, FNFAL, 308 battle rifle. And just some coffee from Mom. I had everything. I had my specialty, though, was, again, military weapons. I'd go down to gun shows every weekend and look for SKS. Unlike those, I had semi-automatic versions of AK-47. Now, I was a FFL dealer, but I was also a Class 3 dealer, NFA weapons. And while I never used that license, I could have purchased and sold automatic weapons. Problem is, they don't make them for the civilian market. The only thing you can buy as an American is pre-86. But you can thank Ronald Reagan for that one. He banned them. So, you know, that's stuff that's 40 years old. Now, you can still find stuff mint condition, but you're going to pay an arm and a leg for it. And so if you wanted an Uzi, yeah, you'd have to buy one made pre-86. There we are. Only law enforcement can get the new ones in Class 3 dealer samples, so that's how I could have got my hands on something new. But yeah, so there wasn't a big market for that, and it was really just a hobby because there's not a lot of money made in guns. Where the money's made is the used market. And so gun broker was a big thing then. I don't know how popular it is. They're probably still operating. But that's where you make your money. If you had a good inventory of used firearms, you could make money buying and selling on gun broker. So if someone bought something from you, you send it to a dealer in their state. It's called a dealer transfer, and then I would send it to the dealer, and then you'd go to the dealer, and he would do the paperwork and background check. Had a lot of fun, though. And when I shut the thing down, I transferred a lot of that into my private collection. And so in the early days of OMEGAMAN, that's how I stayed alive. Bit by bit, I sold everything just about, except a few items. I found a few items when I went back. I had forgotten I had. I saved a couple small items, a really nice 357 Magnum, some 22 rifles, a Derringer, a shotgun. That was about it. I used to have an arsenal. and I had the ammo to go with it. I think I still have my bulletproof vest, though. Yeah, I've got a couple of those. Night vision goggles, sold that, but basically I sold everything. Sold the guitars, sold the ammo, sold the guns, sold the Hummer H2 military grade, sold the Range Rover, sold everything. It was sad. And lived on the backside of the desert. Lord, I pray that I have $3.27 today that I can go up after the OMEGAMAN show and go through the Wendy's drive-thru and get me a 99-cent double stack with cheese, a small chili, and maybe a French fry. We did programs on the backside of the desert. And you know what? That was 16 years ago just about. I'm still living by faith. I'm living by faith day to day. And God put me in a mega house. And you know what? We're thankful. And he gave me a price that I could not refuse. $471 per month. When you see this mansion that we're living at, and it's not even $500 a month, that's God. Because these homes go for $3,000 to $4,000 a month. I thought I was going to be living in a hotel. But I'm here to tell you, God gave me a prophetic word. He said, don't look for your place. You wait on me. If you move now, it's going to be hollow, but there's treasure where you follow. God gave us a great treasure. A place of much space, much light, marble and stone, a place of peace. And other than that pimp and that hoe that pulled up in front of our driveway at about 3 a.m. and had to go out there with that aluminum bat. And you know, this guy, he wasn't in the least bit intimidated. I said, you see those cameras there? I have some security cameras. You see that? You mean to call the police? And this lady, she had a demon right on her. She was just laughing. This hoe. I've seen her before, right up the street. And he was taking her back home. He was a John or he was a taxi driver. Got me angry. And I'm thinking, I don't need this. I said, Lord, what is going on? Put a hedge of protection, wall fire from Zechariah 2 and 5 around me, and stay. I just need one angel got out there. And then he reminded me, if we fear and obey the Lord, even the angel of the Lord encamps about us to deliver us. But I might need to hit somebody and then cast that demon out in the process. So I am going to proceed with a screamer. I have a guy who's coming in Friday. Teach me stick fighting. But I think it's more exercise than anything. I've got to stay in shape. I've been the sedentary OMEGAMAN for almost 20 years. I need to lose about 60 pounds, get down to 120. Look like an Ethiopian. You call me skinny, you'll be paying me a compliment. I'm going to get down to about 120. Learn Bruce Lee style of screamer stick fighting. But then have some other options. I think I'm getting a pitchfork. I'm going to get me one of those, as Lawrence said, I'm going to get me a spearfishing gun, slingshot with ball bearings, and I'll probably get a long Javaro Warrior blowpipe. Put some darts in the buttocks of vermin, man or beast, and then do deliverance on them. Here we are. I've talked enough, folks. Enjoy your day. Get on my Substack, shannonraydavis.substack.com. Welcome aboard Baked Frioles. Bienvenidos, mi amigo. Love me, my Mexican friends. I have a son who's Mexican-American. I have a grandson who's African-American. I have sons and daughters who are Indonesian-American. My nieces and nephews are Vietnamese-American. My father-in-law is Indian. We're a melting pot of a family, all races and creeds. Welcome here. Jesus Christ is Lord. No demon is safe. Hope you'll tune in later. Don't forget to subscribe to OMEGAMAN.podcast. And I hope you enjoyed the show. You'll share it with a friend. And we're going to be back tomorrow. We're on 7 nights a week. New schedule. New times for some of our shows. Get over there on my Substack and then click on my scheduler, and you'll see a real-time schedule of our shows and when we're on air. If you want to support this work, you can do so. I encourage you to support Lawrence DeMello, goldeneyefilm@gmail.com. Give her a love offering. If you want to support the OMEGAMAN, every bit helps. We live by faith. Praise the Lord. We literally live by faith. I'm used to it now. I've tried to start a company. The Lord hasn't let me yet. But I'm looking back into crypto. And the crypto racehorse is about to ride again. We share the love. We'll share the intel. Get on my Telegram group if you want to follow that. We're cranking it back up. It's been dormant for about a year and a half. There's money to be made in micro scalping. Solana is a crypto racehorse top pick. Crypto Cam called me one day. He said, man, I am making money scalping crypto. I said, well, that's a second voice. My wife's been on my butt to do the same. She had a friend. He's trying to make $10 a day, and he's doing it. It can make a difference. $10, $25, make $100. That's life-changing money for many. You can do it in the world of scalping crypto. So the OMEGAMAN has went out and gotten the crypto racehorses who was put out to pasture, brought it back. And we're going to be looking at micro scalping very soon. Look at Crypto Hopper. Check out Crypto Hopper. A word to the wise. They've got a simulator on there. You can do some micro scalping. It's a simulator. You're not putting money in it. You can test out your bots. We're going to work on a crypto bot to micro scalp. And who knows? Maybe that will build the war chest that we need to expand. We shall see. I'm not taking a Ozempic, Dave. Forget that. Yeah, you can get down to 120 real quick on that and look like a walking skeleton. To heck with that. Okay, folks. Love you all. I've talked enough. Now I'm tired. I need to go take a break, get some iced tea, put these audios up, and maybe load another 10 of the OMEGAMAN Fortress of Audios classics. We got 12,000. Are you enjoying what we loaded up the other day? About 19 of them up there. Go over and collect them all. There's 12,000 plus. We're starting the clock again. We're going for 13,000 next. We got our eyes set on a TV program. A tour to Japan in November with School of Deliverance. Doing something in America. There's a book in the works. We got all kinds of things on the drawing board. We shall see how far we get. Father God, in Jesus' name, bless everybody tuned in tonight. Bless Sister Lawrence for coming on tonight. We thank you for this opportunity in Jesus' name.